Chapter 1023. You look like my lady, who has been missing for years. Chapter 1023. You look like my lady, who has been missing for years. A corner of the crystal-clear lake. Fu Wei stood upright, wearing sky-blue clothes. Her porcelain wrist wore a fresh, green ring. She looked like a blooming lotus, pure and beautiful. A war chariot landed like a tornado. People on that chariot slowly got out, stepping on the stone ground in front of her. Shi Yin led them, beaming a bright smile as he bent to greet her. "Hello, lady." Fu Wei relaxed her face, smiling discreetly and tenderly. "I heard you have something important to tell me." Shi Yin nodded and said earnestly, "It's critical. Otherwise, I wouldn't come to disturb your peaceful and quiet time." Critical. Fu Wei gently looked at Zhuo Shi, Xin Ming, and the others. She smiled and said, "If it weren't because of you, I wouldn't have overcome Du Lin's challenge. I hadn't thanked you properly before Uncle Duo barged in. He misunderstood you. I want to say sorry on behalf of him." Waving his hand, Shi Yin seemed not bothered with it. "It has nothing to do with him. I don't mind if he misunderstood me or not. About Du Lin, I didn't have any merit. It's you who is strong enough." "Not you." Fu Wei smiled with some deep intention in her eyes. "Wasn't the giant blood shield that had appeared all of a sudden related to you?" "No, we aren't related." Shi Yin shook his head resolutely. Fu Wei giggled, looking at him in the eye. "We won't talk about it more. An elder wants to see you. She holds an extremely high position in the pavilion. She has treated me well. However, she's afraid that I would have a deep relationship with you. You should consider that." Shi Yin was surprised. He stayed baffled for a while before talking. "It's good. It's better if I talk to your senior about what I want to tell you. Follow me." Fu Wei stood up, gently flying towards the center of the lake. "You will go there alone," a guard told him by the lake while frowning. "You guys wait for me here." Shi Yin also knew the rules. He advised Fei Lan and the others, then followed Fu Wei, flying towards the main hall in the lake. The main hall? While discussing with Bettina, Xia Xian Yin suddenly felt a vehement vibe in her soul. She could feel something very important to her was coming close. She felt a little restless. As her realm was profound and her power Upanishad was marvelous, she had many mysterious abilities. She calmed down her mind and sensed, but couldn't get anything strange. Squeak! A stone door above their heads squeaked open as two figures slowly descended. Xia Xian Yan's beautiful eyes suddenly sparkled with brilliant, dazzling light while her body shivered. She was bewildered, looking at the incoming man. She sat perplexed, as if she was struck by the body-fixing spell. After Shi Yin landed, he stooped and raked his eyes through the place. He was petrified as if he were walloped, his face astounded. It had been almost 100 years. The two intimate souls who had found each other in the Grace mainland suddenly met up again in this place. The two of them were dumbstruck, as they didn't expect this encounter. "Little Wei, is he the boy you told me about? He has a deep relationship with Blood Demon, Bath, and Gute?" Bettina hadn't recognized the strange expression on Xia Xian Yin sitting next to her yet. She eyed Shi Yin while frowning. Only at the third sky of original God realm, not really outstanding. Her line of sight switched from Jia Duo to Shi Yin, who looked really dumb at this moment, frowning tightly. Such a fool. Bettina relaxed. After she had seen Shi Yin, she felt quite disappointed. However, she also felt lucky that Fu Wei wouldn't have anything with Shi Yin. How could Fu Wei lay her eyes on a stupid kid like him? She instinctively thought that Jia Duo was wrong. Jia Duo was also confused as he looked at Shi Yin for a while and became disappointed. Shi Yin didn't have a high realm and his manner wasn't excellent. He didn't even know that he should greet Bettina. Apparently, he made people disdain him. "This is my senior, the third elder of Potion and Tool Pavilion." "Shi Yin? Shi Yin." Fu Wei knitted her bold brows as she secretly called him, but he hadn't awakened yet. At this point, she had to raise her voice. Shi Yin sat down dully, facing Xia Xian Yin across the stone table. He was so astounded that he didn't hear what Fu Wei was saying to him. And he didn't greet Bettina and Jia Duo either. He acted incredibly dumb. The woman sitting in front of him was much more elegant than in the past. Her gorgeous gown lingered on her perfect figure. Her S*XY body was so charming, her bare feet seemingly made of porcelain and flawless. Today, her stylish and enchanting characteristics could make people's hearts pound harder. Shi Yan's line of sight fell on Xian and turned him as dumb as someone who had seen the glamour for the first time. He couldn't even hide his hot eyes gazing on her. Bettina, Jaduo, and Fu Wei hadn't noticed Xian's strange expression as they were all watching Shi Yan. Seeing his confused complexion, Bettina and Jaduo disdained him even more. Fu Wei was angry discreetly. She bit her lips, rolling her eyes at him. Seeing the glamour, he became dizzy and forgot even the basic etiquette. This made Fu Wei mad, thinking he was like the other men who were thrilled by Xian's beauty. Cough. Xian gave a dry cough as her face turned normal again. She smiled, then said naturally, Fu Wei Jiejia, why don't you introduce this outstanding, handsome young man here? He looks like he wants to eat human flesh. Is he the one who has a reluctant relationship with you? Fu Wei was so embarrassed as she glared at Shi Yan, trying to explain. No, we're just friends. Don't make wrong assumptions, guys. Normal friends? Xian smiled, but she didn't part her lips. Her beautiful eyes rolled, but she still gazed at Shi Yan. He looks good, but handsome warriors are everywhere in Agate Star area. He just looks so bearing. Only that much. He seems foolish though. I think that Fu Wei Jiejia doesn't like him, right? She was talking to Fu Wei, but her line of sight had never left Shi Yan. Her voice sounded mocking, but no one knew that she was shivering. Shi Yan pulled himself together from the awkward situation. He secretly glared at Xian, then gave a light cough and gathered his manner. Yeah, I'm a fool, but I'm not like someone who is trying to pretend to be foolish. Pausing for a while, his eyes became dissolute, raking on Xian's sexy body and not wanting to get back. He tried to look despicable. May I know your name, lady? Have you been married? What do you think about me? I don't know why when I see you. I thought that you were my lady who had been missing for years. I wonder if you have the same feeling. Listening to him, Bettina, Jaduo, and Fu Wei were frightened, looking at him as if they were looking at a monster. This man, was he nuts? What position and level did Xian have? She was the leader of the Windstorm War Department of Fighting League. She was very famous in Shadow Ghostly Prison. She was extremely brilliant, and her plans had never failed. She had taken her force to attack the Dark Shadow clan several times with brutal and extreme deeds. She was famous throughout 100 years in the Shadow Ghostly Prison, the best of the best. Even Jaduo and Fu Wei had to welcome her personally. This kind of character, how could he tease her that way? Fu Wei was panic-stricken, her face pale. She hurried to get up and explain to Xian reluctantly. This friend of mine is drunk, acting strangely. My apology. Please don't hold grudges against him. She turned around, then lowered her voice and scolded him. Shi Yan, what's wrong with you? Do you know who she is? She's the commander of the Windstorm War Department of Fighting League. She's the person that Jim trusts the most. She can even talk on behalf of the Fighting League. I'm begging you, don't act rashly. Bettina and Jaduo were pale, looking at him maliciously. However, it was beyond their expectation that Xian, who was flirted with, hadn't been enraged yet. Quite the contrary, she somehow blushed and threw Shi Yan a glance, talking casually. So, you want to pursue me? Of course, I'm not married. But it's not easy to chase me. I have someone I like. He's an ** shoal who enjoys his life out there. He has a lot of love affairs. It has been 100 years, and he hasn't found me yet. If you want to pursue me, help me kill him first. Can you do that? Everybody was bewildered, their faces odd. That kid is crazy. But, is craziness infectious? Even a noble like her turned crazy? Since when did she like to give her good face to a man, especially when that man had teased her first? The master of Windstorm was infamous. Since when had she become so easy to talk with? She still spoke to that man nicely. What F asterisk king logic was this? Bettina, Jaduo, and Fu Wei all felt panic-stricken. They looked at Xia Xian Yin, then Shi Yin with his naked line of sight. They found the situation was way beyond their imagination. All right, tell me, what's his name? Tell me, and I'll kill him. Shi Yin rolled his sleeves, his face savage while shouting. Dares to let such a beauty wait for him for 100 years. He's committed a big crime. I'll kill him, then we'll be together. How does it sound? PFFF. Xia Xian Yin burst out laughing charmingly. She angrily stared at him, then lowered her voice and scolded him. You don't care about your reputation? Shi Yin laughed with his thick-skinned face. Bettina, Jaduo, and Fu Wei were baffled. They exchanged looks, but they didn't know what to do. Lady, can we talk in private? Let me show my hot affection to you. Seeing you today, I'm amazed as if I've seen a fairy. If I can't have something with you, I will regret it my whole life. Please fulfill my wish. Shi Yin seized the chance, grinning with bright eyes. Bettina's group was bewildered. They cursed Shi Yin under their breath for being despicable. He was really wanton this time indeed. Excellent. Beyond their expectation, Xia Xian Yin agreed resolutely. She smiled like a flower, talking to Bettina. Can I borrow a secret room? Bettina nodded bewilderedly. She felt so tired and unnatural. She called in a feeble voice, People, guide them to the secret chamber number 3. Under the fierce gaze of Jaduo and Fu Wei, as if they wanted to eat people alive, Xia Xian Yin jolted up from her seat fast. She looked even more hurried than Shi Yin as she hastened to leave to the secret chamber. Jaduo and Fu Wei could see her nape blushing. It was the sign of her rushing affection. At this moment, Shi Yin laughed, then lifted his face and followed her under the sharp looks of the other 3. Chapter 1024. A Kiss for 100 Years. Chapter 1024. A Kiss for 100 Years. What's the F asterisk CK is going on? Inside the main hall, Jaduo couldn't help but curse. He pulled the few hair left on his head, his face irritated. Fu Wei hadn't recovered from her fear. She looked strange, trying to pry. Is it possible that Xia Xian Yin does like him? Impossible. Bettina and Jaduo screamed at the same time. Fu Wei was surprised. Pondering for a while, she said, Rumors say that she has never given any man her approval. Isn't it true? Why did she act so awkwardly when she saw him? It must be because she was so infuriated. Bettina was surprised. She chuckled as she got something all of a sudden. She talked as if she knew the real situation. Yeah, it should be that way. I understand, my friend. She never lets herself in a disadvantaged situation. She wanted to go to the secret chamber that hurriedly. She wanted to separate from us to teach that brat a lesson. Yes, it's like that. I saw clearly that her neck reddened because she was so angry. I can tell she was indignant. Yeah, it must be like that. Jaduo agreed with her. That brat dared to tease her. His despicable eyes were so. With her position and status, of course, she wouldn't let him go easily. Jaduo looked like he enjoyed Shi Yan's misfortune, coldly looking in the direction of the secret chamber. That brat is going to have a lesson this time. It should be a fight taking place now in the room. Wait and see. When he walks out of that door, he won't look nice anymore. Bettina smiled and nodded. That brat is stubborn. He dared to say things he shouldn't have. He deserves that. What did he say? You look like my lady who went missing for years. Moron. He's shameless indeed. Fu Wei, I believe you now. It's impossible that you would like something like him. We've wronged you. Jaduo was also embarrassed. Fu Wei, I was impulsive. If I had known him to be a person like that, I wouldn't have worried about you. Bettina and Jaduo relaxed. They seemed to have nothing to worry anymore, and just sat to eat some fruits. They smiled, waiting for Shi Yin to come out of that door with a swollen face. Although Fu Wei was so confused and thought that Shi Yin had some mental disorder, she didn't want to see Shi Yin encounter bad things. She said worriedly, would Lady Xia mishit him? He has a good relationship with Devil Bloodstar and Monster Dragonstar. If he encounters bad things in our potion and tool pavilion, don't you think you will need to give them a proper explanation? Don't worry. She knows how to behave. It won't turn so bad that we can't solve it. Bettina waved her hand, talking casually. It's good for him to learn a lesson. He will know how high the sky is. You guys should never underestimate him. I saw how Blood Devil treated him in the Devil Blood Star. He's the only fellow of Blood Devil's tribe. I think you know Blood Devil's characteristics. Fu Wei was still worried. Hearing her, Bettina and Jaduo were hesitant. Pondering for a while, Bettina frowned while talking. I'm going to sense their fight then. Thud. A low grumbling noise arose from the secret chamber. It sounded like a body impact. It was low, but it wasn't so fierce. Closing her eyes, Bettina sensed discreetly. She said, both of them are panting. They must be fighting now. However, it's under control. It shouldn't be a big deal. Don't worry. She won't take his life. I'm sure about this. She's not an impulsive warrior. Listening to her, Fu Wei was begrudging. She was still worried, but she said nothing. Inside the stone chamber, it was a battle as they guessed. However, the way they battled each other wasn't what they had ever imagined. Inside the 10-square-meter room, Shi Yin and Xia Xian Yin were pressing against each other like a pair of twins with a conjoined body on the jade wall while kissing passionately. They hugged and rolled on the ground. Sometimes, they were stopped by the wall and caused some grumbling noises. No, I brought him here. If he gets into trouble, I will blame myself. After Fu Wei had struggled in her mind for a while, she couldn't help but move to the door of the secret chamber despite Jaduo and Bettina trying to tell her to stop. She hissed at the door. Lady Xia, please show mercy. Although he spoke rudely, he didn't mean harm. Please, for the face of our potion and tool pavilion, don't hurt him so bad. Fu Wei stood by the door, gently knocking to catch the attention of people inside. In the secret chamber, Shi Yin trembled on hearing Fu Wei's hissing. He cursed under his breath as he was annoyed. Xia Xian Yin smiled charmingly, lowering her voice. That woman cares about you a lot. She's afraid that I'm bullying you. What's the relationship between you guys? Nothing. Shi Yin rose his hand. I'm perfectly clean. Asterisk Shoal. You can't stay still wherever you go. If you don't mess with people, you can't feel comfortable, right? Xia Xian Yin glared, snorting. I've lost my mood today. I'm not going to satisfy you. Looking at Shi Yan's eyes which were about to be set ablaze, she gently stood up, gnawing her succulent red underlip. She lowered her voice and then said, They're all outside. We can't enjoy that much. If I'm careless and let out a moan, my reputation will be destroyed. Her beautiful eyes were watery as her sexy body shivered. Evidently, she was trying to control her surging, passionate affection. Shi Yin looked at her putting on her clothes and felt so irritated as he couldn't vent out his desire. He gave her a forced smile. I have nothing ambiguous with her, really? He knew she was jealous. Otherwise, she wouldn't have insulted him right when she saw him. At the critical moment, this noble lady ditched him, which was even more annoyed than killing him. He felt a cat paw gently scratching his heart. He felt dry and hot, and it was hard to bear. I'm giving you a lesson for your flirty nature. We're done for today. Harumph. I can't reward you without any merit. Xia Xian Yin smiled gently. Looking at his hurried gait like a monkey, Xia Xian Yin felt so comfortable. They thought I was teaching you a lesson. Ha, it's interesting. I can see Bettina and Jaduo hope that I would hit you hard until your face is swollen. You're a failure in their eyes, eh? And only Fu Wei cares about you. Your relationship with women is sure good. Tell me, how did you seduce her? No, I didn't. Really, I didn't. Shi Yin almost rose his hand to swear. At first, we shouldn't reveal our relationship. The hegemon treats me as his blood sister. He's a bit overprotective. He watches me closely. If he knows of our relationship, he will be enraged badly. Xia Xian Yin grinned, teasing. You haven't surpassed me yet. I've reached the second sky of ethereal god realm already. With your status and power, I think my hegemon won't agree. You should put in more effort. Don't lag behind me. Listening to her, Shi Yin was shocked, beaming a forced smile. You've reached the ethereal god realm, and you still didn't have any significant bottleneck? Yes, Xia Xian Yin giggled. Thus, you have to put more efforts. 100 years ago, I told you to be stronger. When you are stronger than me, I'm willing to be your woman. You're still behind me. So, I can only give you some different advantage. Then what should I do now? Shi Yin put on a sad face, veins bulging on his head. You want me to walk out of this room like this? Xia Xian Yin was bewildered, blushing. Her beautiful watery eyes looked at his private place. Hesitating for a while, she muttered loud enough for the mosquitoes to hear. I'm going to use my hand then. After a long time, the stone door of the secret chamber squeaked open. Xia Xian Yin walked out with wrinkled clothes and locks of hair tangled over her temples. She lifted her head, walking out arrogantly, her countenance cold and her eyes disdainful. They had fought. Bettina and Jaduo exchanged looks. From Xia Xian Yan's wrinkled clothes, they could confirm their assumption. Then, Shi Yin walked out of the room dispiritedly. He clutched his stomach as if he were hurt, which strengthened the other's assumption. They now believed that Shi Yin learned his lesson in that chamber already. Otherwise, his footstep wouldn't be that light. Are you all right? Did you get hurt? Fu Wei frowned, glancing at Xia Xian Yin in an unfriendly way. She walked over and reached out to support Shi Yin while nagging. Why did you need to provoke her? You got your lesson. Will you behave now? I will. Shi Yin nodded instinctively while answering her. Shall we talk the business now? Fu Wei gave a light snort. Yeah, we should. Shi Yin chuckled, restoring his deliberating manner. However, he often glanced at Xia Xian Yin. He's so bold in this flirting thing. He doesn't even want his life. Fu Wei goggled, cursing under her breath. She was so bitter she wanted to vent her anger out. However, she couldn't find anything to do that, and began to feel distressed. Chapter 1025. Play to the Gallery? Chapter 1025. Play to the Gallery. Unsung. The Great Elder has joined hands with the Dark Shadow Clan to facilitate the God Clan's invasion. Bettina gave a faint smile. With her prejudice towards Shi Yin, she didn't have any favorable impression of him, so she didn't believe him. Nonsense. Although Great Elder has a big wild scheme, he knows what not to do. Letting the God Clan invade our place, what's good for him in this? He's willing to be the God Clan's hound? Bettina shook her head, not believing Shi Yin at all. Jaduo and Fu Wei were also surprised, but they thought Shi Yin was just acting. Fu Wei felt that Shi Yin's today performance was too bad. She assumed he was playing the gallery to earn their attention. Thus, she didn't buy it. Do you know the superpower status of Potion and Tool Pavilion in Agate Star area? Jaduo wasn't polite, grinning. Being the Great Elder of the Potion and Tool Pavilion, he has almost controlled all of the star area. He's the peak character who tops everyone else. Unless his brain's dysfunctional, he would never become the servant of the God Clan. Your joke's funny. Fu Wei kept silent and didn't help Shi Yin defend himself either. The three elders of the Potion and Tool Pavilion used their words and complexion to express their attitude. Shi Yin had gone through all the trouble to get to this place, bringing them the news. He was so angry at their response. He understood that it was because the Potion and Tool Pavilion didn't consider his status or position. If Xia Xian Yin, Blood Devil of the Demon Clan, or Bath and Gute from Monster Dragon Star had told them this information, the three elders of the Potion and Tool Pavilion would have jumped in fear. When one didn't have status or a high position, people would consider the truth one spoke as a big joke. No one would care. I got the information from the memory of an ethereal god realm expert of the Dark Shadow Clan. It must be true, Shi Yin said resolutely. Unfortunately, hearing him, Bettina and Jaduo hated him even more as they felt it seemed so stupid. Especially Jaduo, who talked with a mocking face, "You're just a warrior at the original god realm. What do you have to kill an ethereal god realm expert and extract his memory? Even if you want to lie, you need to find more backup." Bettina waved her hand as she couldn't hold it. All right. If you only have this to say, we're not interested. Yeah, you should go. Don't delay our important business. She nodded to Fu Wei, asking her to send him off. Fu Wei sighed, standing up reluctantly. She lowered her voice, talking to Shi Yin. Let's go. I'm taking you out. Shi Yin knitted his brows tightly, his face grimaced. He stood up quietly, turning around to throw Xia Xian Yin a glance. Xia Xian Yin nodded, but no one noticed her move. She signaled for him to wait for her outside the life star number 9. Fu Wei led Shi Yin floating up, flying out of the lake. When they landed, she frowned, blaming him. What's wrong with you today? Shi Yin darkened his face, talking coldly. You don't believe me? Naturally, I would believe you. But, you're so strange today. I think you got crazy because of Xia Xian Yan's glamour. I can't make myself believe in you. Fu Wei said seriously. Shi Yin felt lost. He sighed inwardly, but he didn't want to insist on it anymore. It's okay if you don't believe me. When it happens, I hope you can manage things well. Sigh. Could you tell me what's happened to you? Fu Wei was bewildered, her face awkward. Why did you seem to have become another man when you saw Xia Xian Yin? You were like a loon pervert who doesn't know a thing. You were obsessed. Is she that attractive to you that she could even disorder your mind? Fu Wei still thought that Xia Xian Yin was the main reason why Shi Yin behaved like a fool, and that he had made up such terrifying, fake news to attract her attention. Shi Yin wanted to cry, but had no tears. He didn't have the mood to explain, so he just waved his hand. I'm leaving now. You guys suit yourself. I hope you wouldn't regret in the future. I'm glad you came to see me. Fu Wei pondered for a while and then said, how about you staying here and waiting for me for a while? After we've done negotiating with Xia Xian Yin, I'm going to talk to you later? No need. I don't have free time. Shi Yin rejected with a dark face. He felt irritated. Leaving? He talked to Fei Lan's team waiting in the distance. Let's go. Fei Lan and Leona nodded. They didn't look at Fu Wei, following him to fly out of the lake. They pierced through the atmosphere, returning to the dark outer space. Underneath them were the dark clouds that covered the entire life star number 9, revealing nothing. Shi Yan's team gathered on a dark blue asteroid and stopped to watch. Senior, has the potion and tool pavilion fallen into chaos now? Ka Tua approached him. The God Clan is about to invade, and their great elder has joined hands with aliens. Isn't it breaking news? They didn't believe me. They thought I was making it up. Damn it. Shi Yin couldn't help but curse. Fei Lan's team was baffled. Benny's handsome face was angry and ferocious. Seems like they don't want to live anymore. The God Clan is famous for their intimidation in this universe. The star area they lay their eyes on can't avoid a catastrophe. They got the chance to prepare their defense, but they refuse it. I think the agate star area will become the backyard garden of the God Clan soon. He came from another star area and knew how mighty the God Clan was. Seeing the strongest force of agate star area being so aloof and numb, he was quite disappointed. What should we do now? Fei Lan frowned. The potion and tool pavilion doesn't believe us. Who else we can tell to spread this information? How about Blood Devil? Too far. I can't contact him. It takes a lot of time to get here. Pondering for a while, Shi Yin said, we're going to wait here for a while. I want to see someone. Perhaps she could change the potion and tool pavilion's attitude. Who? Fu Wei Jiejie? Zwisher couldn't help but ask. Shaking his head, Shi Yin calmed down his anger and chuckled. Not Fu Wei. You'll know when you see her. Oh, do I know her? Zwisher screamed with surprise. Shi Yin smiled, but didn't explain more. Hundreds of different shapes battleships entered a quiet corner of the shadow ghostly prison without releasing any beam of fierce energy. Those battleships separated into two different parties as they moved in two formations, heading to the life star number 9 of Potion and Tool Pavilion. At the point where two formations crossed each other, there were two battleships, one belonging to the Ghost Mark clan and the other to the Dark Shadow clan. The Ghost Mark battleships were shark-shaped, around several thousand meters long. They looked more imposing than the flat, round battleships of the Dark Shadow clan. This kind of a battleship didn't belong in the agate star area, and they weren't fabricated by the Potion and Tool Pavilion. At this moment, people from two clans gathered between the two battleships. One of them was Du Lin. There was a dark shadow old man with a face that had experienced hardship and difficulties. He had thin and long eyebrows that looked like two spears. He was around 60 or 70 years old, wearing a strange robe with gold-plated hems shrouding his entire body. Also present was a ghost mark man with a cold and harsh countenance. His face was arrogant as he stood, clasping his hands behind his back. The three of them were discussing something. At times, a murderous aura would arise from them. Apparently, they were plotting something bloody. Suddenly, a dark Shadow Clan soldier flew to them from a battleship, talking respectfully. "Master Cocker, the kid we were searching for disappeared. The troop we sent to find him was killed." The leader of the Dark Shadow Clan, called Cocker, had a brutal light sparkling in his eyes. "No one alive." "Yes, they were all killed," the subordinate replied gingerly. Cocker waved his hand. "I got it. You can leave." The Dark Shadow Clan clansmen retreated quietly. "Do you need help?" Hammer, the current chief of Ghost Mark Clan in Agate Star area, sounded surprised. "If someone dares to kill your fellows in Shadow Ghostly Prison, it's only the Fighting League. The Fighting League and the other have a good relationship. I heard that the commander of the Windstorm War Department is visiting the Life Star number 9. If you don't feel well, it's a good chance to vent out. We will solve our own business. You don't need to mind a thing," Cocker said while frowning. "The target Life Star has the 10th Elder of Potion and Tool Pavilion, who cultivates space power Upanishad. Before we attack them, we need to prepare something first." Hammer and Du Lin nodded. They knew the abilities of the warriors cultivating space power Upanishad. To deal with this kind of warrior, they needed a complicated arrangement, or else their target could use his power to retreat with ease. The warriors who cultivated space power were the hardest to catch in every known star area. If they didn't block all of his possible exits, they wouldn't be able to kill him. "Leave it to the Dark Shadow Clan." Cocker looked at Hammer and Du Lin while explaining, "Our Dark Shadow Clan is good at chasing warriors with space power Upanishad. We just need to disorder the space nodes around, which will prevent him from using them to teleport. We can stop him that way from running away in just a blink." Hammer and Du Lin knew how strong the Dark Shadow Clan was in this particular field. They didn't have any other opinion and agreed with him. "First, we need to stop the battleships so that I can break the space nodes around here. We will mess up all the areas where he could make a quick escape. We will stop him from escaping the Life Star instantly. After we're done, you can move," said Cocker arrogantly. Hammer and Du Lin agreed with him. Cocker called for someone, then lowered his voice to assign that man. The Dark Shadow Clan warrior listened to him and nodded continually. Shortly after, he left. Not long afterward, brilliant chunks of light bloomed in the dark space. The void rippled and twisted like water waves. Hammer and Du Lin had a feeling that this whole area was about to collapse. They looked at the exploding light, feeling the fear for the Dark Shadow Clan rising high in their hearts. This mysterious clan did have supernatural powers to deal with warriors with space power. At the same time, their internal power was also intimidating. Chapter 1026, Frantic. Chapter 1026, Frantic. Sitting on the dark blue asteroid, Shi Yin suddenly opened his eyes, his face pale. He had always been silent and cultivating, sending his soul consciousness to sense the magical features of the 16 space nodes around him. However, he had just sensed one of them become chaotic. It seemed some unknown force was breaking them unceasingly. His strange reaction woke up Fei Lan and the others as they looked at him in confusion. Shi Yin didn't explain. He closed his eyes and continued sensing the other space nodes of the Life Star number 9, Under Potion, and Tool Pavilion. After less than 10 minutes, 5 space nodes were distorted by an appalling force. They couldn't function as teleporting ports anymore. He paled while thoughts flashed through his head like electric beams. In a flash, he jolted up with fear, talking anxiously. "There's 16 space nodes around this area. Someone is breaking them continually. Evidently, a powerful force is going to attack that Life Star. As they can break the space nodes, they should have an intimidating force. This action aims at Jaduo. They know Jaduo's here." Ka Tuo was surprised. But then he felt happy on the others' misfortune. They deserve that. The potion and tool pavilion have bad luck this time. Phelan and the others also had an indifferent visage. They didn't care about the potion and tool pavilion, especially that foul-mouthed Jaduo. As the potion and tool pavilion didn't believe Yin, they didn't have any good feelings for that force. They even wished a big loss for them. If they don't care about us, should we leave now? We shouldn't get involved in this mess, said Ka Tua. Yin frowned with a stern look. He pondered and then said, I'm going to deliver you guys through a space node that still function. Shortly, he gathered his energy, as space slits moved around him like electric beams. Gradually, those electric space beams twisted with each other, creating a mysterious space channel above their heads. Get in there, all of you, Yin hissed. Phelan and the others didn't understand his actions. They all looked at him bewilderedly. After you get out of the passage, navigate a direction and move far away, as fast as possible. Don't rest. Yin's face was stern like never before. Leave this area quickly. Stay on a mineral star or a life star. Do not return at any cost. The force that could break the space nodes and attack the potion and tool pavilion's life star number 9 should have formidable power. He understood that the potion and tool pavilion would encounter a danger they had never seen before. With one wrong step, their situation would change dramatically. Even Yin wasn't sure if he could survive this furious battle. However, he had to get back there. It was not because of the potion and tool pavilion. It was because Xia Xian Yin was still down there. Senior, if you want to go, we'll go together, shouted Ka Tu. I have to go. There's someone I can't leave behind. I have to get back there. Yin barked. Then, we will return together. Phelan hissed. Her face showed that she wouldn't accept a no. You can't be of help there. I don't want you to die in vain. The opponent is extremely intimidating this time, stronger than you can ever imagine. If they dare to plot against the 3 elders of the potion and tool pavilion, of course, they're prepared. Our force can't do anything. Yin took a deep breath, talking. You guys, don't worry too much. I've been struggling in the most dangerous area for almost all my life. If I go alone, I will have 70% chance of surviving. If you follow me, I will have to worry a lot. It's no different from a burden. Go together or stay together, said Leona. Yin felt warm inside, but his face grimaced. He couldn't help but shout at them, touching his forehead. I'm going to use my status as the heir of the Master of Bloodthirsty's Cortege of 8 for the first time to order you guys to leave immediately. I don't have much time. If you waste a second, my chance to survive will reduce further. The space nodes were still disappearing. When all the space nodes here were destroyed, this area would be completely locked. At that time, the potion and tool pavilion wouldn't be able to connect with other places. Many soundstones and secret treasures used to communicate would need the space nodes to transfer the message. Once all the space nodes of this area were destroyed, this area would be completely blockaded. Then, they would be confined and unable to send a message to get help. He knew what it meant. Although he had been together with Phelan, Leona, and Ka Tua for many years, he hadn't used his status as the descendant of Bloodthirsty to order them into doing anything. If he still had a chance, he wouldn't do that this time. However, when he did that, it meant the situation had come to the most perilous moment. As told by Master, I don't dare to not follow. Benny was the first one to talk. This dark teenager made a strange hand gesture to greet him, then leaped up into the space channel. Phelan, Ka Tua, and Leona reddened their faces as they were struggling in their minds. Eventually, they nodded, telling him to take care, and then pulled Xian Ming and Zhuoshe, leaping up to the passage. After that, they disappeared in a short while. Waiting until all of them had left, Yin changed his power Upanishad. The space channel he had made shrank into a light dot and vanished. He didn't hurry to get into the potion and tool pavilion's life star number 9. He took a deep breath, sending away 3 drops of his ruby blood together with a wisp of soul consciousness. The 3 drops gathered into a thread, moving into the endless sea of stars. It got into a space node near the Devil Blood Star. Within a second, it had traveled billions of miles away. At this most dangerous moment, he suddenly felt powerless, as if he didn't have any bit of energy left in his body. Besides Blood Devil, he didn't know whom to count on. He used to say that it was hard to contact Blood Devil, but that was the case when he didn't use Immortal Demon Blood. If he tried the Immortal Demon Blood to contact Blood Devil, he could send a wisp of his soul consciousness to him. However, since it was the first time Shi Yin tried this type of communication, he wasn't so sure when Blood Devil could receive his message. Using this communication method, he could send a limited amount of information. He could only tell the other the agate star area would have a great change originating from the shadow ghostly prison. He also sent his location, saying that his life was threatened. He wasn't sure if Blood Devil would believe him and come to him or not. However, he must spread the news, because he knew that if he hadn't sent the information before the space nodes were all destroyed, he wouldn't have a single chance anymore. A blood thread with his soul consciousness had gone through the space nodes and traveled billions of miles in just a blink of an eye. Taking a deep breath, he didn't want to waste more time. He gathered his energy, blowing a punch of starlight on the black cotton cloud defense underneath. Shortly after, the Potion and Tool Pavilion's guard, who had taken them in and out previously, emerged with his face grimaced. He shouted, "Why are you still here?" Shi Yin knew it was of no use to explain to him, as he wouldn't understand or believe him. He just smiled, talking, "I forgot my stuff down there. I just want to take it back. I won't trouble you. Please let me in for a while." The guard wasn't calm at all. The good impression he had for Shi Yin was fading as he frowned. "How long do you need?" "Short. I just need 15 minutes. Shi Yin hurried. He needed to enter this life star. He shouldn't waste time here, because the space nodes were still being destroyed. He didn't have much time left. Jaduo also had space power Upanishad. However, unless he was sensing the change of space nodes outside the life star, he wouldn't get the situation. At this moment, Jaduo was still discussing with Xia Xianyan, so he wasn't free to sense around. If he knew of the changes outside, he should have prepared already. However, as Shi Yin saw nothing changing in this life star, he knew Jaduo hadn't found anything. "You have 15 minutes, the guard told Shi Yin impatiently. He opened the barrier and let him in. However, as soon as he pierced through the atmosphere of the life star number 9, he madly drilled forward as if he were crazy. Star energy, god power, and negative energy burst out at the same time. He let them all flow, not wanting to store even a bit. He moved even faster than lightning. Shortly after, he fell into the lake at the center of the life star while shouting, "I want to meet your elders." As he was still screaming, he stormed to the center of the lake. His aura surged powerfully, which wasn't less than the exploding power of an ethereal god realm expert. The guards of Potion and Tool Pavilion standing around the lake saw only a lightning strike struck down, trying to pierce the lake. They all shouted and rushed to stop him. Most of them were at the original god realm, with many precious treasures and weapons. Instantaneously, lightning crossed the light, weaving above the lake to seal it. "Open the barrier and let me in," Shi Yin thundered angrily. "Wanton. Arrogant. You court death." The Potion and Tool Pavilion's guards cursed. They shouted the warning, soaring into the sky to stop him. Shi Yin was impatient this time, so he didn't have the mood to entangle with them. His eyes reddened. A blood light appeared as the giant broadsword emerged in his hand. The several thousand-meter blood light column moved like a garnet rainbow, slashing down and sending a sharp, brutal aura that could even open the sky. Puff! The light curtain dozens of guards at the original god realm were making was torn. Many of those guards spurted out blood as they were blown backward. More Potion and Tool Pavilion's guards came. They all looked terrified as they looked at him and started to shout, "He's crazy. He will trouble the elders. Stop him. Stop him." In their eyes, Shi Yin with his red eyes was already crazy. They didn't notice what he was talking, and they just wanted to stabilize this chaotic situation. With the flame of anger that rose his murderous aura to the sky, Shi Yin had his negative energy burst out like a raging flood. The red eyes on the sword opened, and a flow of death aura filled the entire life star number 9. In this rushing situation, it was the first time he urged all of his power. Now, He looked like the god of slaughter of the underworld. His sword tilted, slashing the second time. The thousands of meters-long blood rainbow fell into the lake. Boom! The lake seethed violently as dozens of water column shot up into the sky. A terrifying energy hole appeared in the lake, sending billions of light dots backward. He had made up his mind. If he couldn't get into the main hall under the lake, he would force the people in there to come out. Chapter 1027. Come with me. Chapter 1027. Come with me. __. Boom. Another several thousand meters long blood rainbow violently hacked onto the lake. The massive energy cage in the lake collapsed, sending water columns into the air while billions of light dots bloomed. Many guards of Potion and Tool Pavilion were enraged. They cursed while dashing toward Shi Yin. Another space node was destroyed as Shi Yin wore a savage countenance. He was so indignant that his flame of anger could shoot into the sky. He was outraged because the Potion and Tool Pavilion didn't know anything but was still so stubborn. He couldn't help but face the sky and roar. A flow of blood aura rocketed to the air like a massive blood dragon. The garnet eyes on the sword in his hand opened continually, diffusing the evil aura onto the entire surface of the life star. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The red eyes in the sword could feel his murderous aura. They flew out of the sword, turning into the images of ferocious demons. They had fangs and scary countenances, as well as pairs of wings on their backs. Their empty eyes let out bloodthirsty gleams like ferocious flaming balls. The blood-flaming ghosts moved like butterflies gliding above the lake as they gathered like blood-colored currents of a massive flood. Dozens of Potion and Tool Pavilion's warriors stormed toward Shi Yin when their soul altars were shaken all of a sudden. A strange pain stung their brain as the evil energy had invaded their sea of consciousness, causing an immense pain. The blood currents extended like long swords, moving continually. They weaved into a blood net, which was some kind of a barrier. Around that large blood barrier, the negative emotion including fear, bloodlust, despair, brutality, and madness, which often hid deep in the bottom of people's hearts, were all arisen. Warriors of the Potion and Tool Pavilion couldn't control their souls, as if they were under a malicious spell. For the time being, all the warriors attacking Shi Yin halted in the air. Their empty eyes looked exactly the same with those gliding flaming ghosts. It was the signal when the soul was invaded. In the middle of the lake, the massive energy cage collapsed, stirring up water in the lake. The attacking energy rushed directly to the main hall. The main hall was shaken rumblingly as though it was about to shatter. Bettina, Jiaduo, Fu Wei, and Xia Xian were talking inside the hall when their visages changed dramatically. They recognized the pressure and couldn't help but look up. Jiaduo wore a cold face, extending his hand and touching the void in the dome above their heads. A small, open space appeared like a bright mirror. They immediately saw Shi Yin holding a massive sword, looking like a demon. At this moment, his murderous aura was shooting up into the sky. His eyes were both garnet like 2 drops of blood. The energy in his body was chillingly evil, as though he wanted to imprison every creature in this world into the endless space of death. Holy sh*t. That kid's crazy. Jiaduo couldn't help but curse. He dares to make a move in our Potion and Tool Pavilion. He doesn't know how high the sky is. I'm going to kill him. Bettina also wore a cold face. Her anger towards Shi Yin had reached her bones as she said coldly, "Dare to swagger in our Potion and Tool Pavilion? Even Blood Devil can't protect him this time." She apparently agreed with Jiaduo's decision. Fu Wei paled, looking at Shi Yin, who was crazy at this moment. She didn't know what to do in this situation. Her bright eyes were filled with worries. However, Xia Xian, who had just chatted happily with Bettina and Jiaduo, had her bold eyebrows knitted tight. She coldly glared at the other two and quietly flew up. She pierced through the barrier above their heads, getting out of the lake. A 1,000 meters long bloodlight column slashed down. It had aimed at the lake, but changed the direction in midway. Shortly, it rumblingly hit an empty battleship anchored by the lake. The 1,000 meters long battleship was like a loaf of tofu under the blood light. It was halved, with the cut surface as flat and smooth as a mirror. Xia Xianyan's beautiful eyes were confused as she hovered above the lake, calling him. What's wrong? Come with me. Shi Yin, with his murderous aura, floated in the center of the blood net. He hurried to switch his powers Upanishads. The space slits appeared and gathered, creating a space tunnel above his head. He looked at Xia Xianyan and said, I don't have extra time to explain. We should move first. Xia Xianyan was baffled. She hesitated for a second but didn't say anything, and just nodded. She was about to get into the space tunnel. Many potion and tool pavilions guards hovering around were dumbstruck. They didn't know why their distinguished guest listened to that madman. She didn't even clarify the situation before she decided to leave with Shi Yin. At that moment, Xia Xianyan wholeheartedly trusted Shi Yin. Shi Yin felt warm, as his surging, brutal mind gradually calmed down. However, an incident happened shortly after. When Xia Xianyan was about to get into the space tunnel created by Shi Yan's space power suddenly twisted and exploded. The sharp beams of space energy were shot out everywhere. Shi Yan's space tunnel was shattered in just a blink. Jiaduo's face was icy cold. He appeared by the tunnel all of a sudden. His eyes were dark and harsh. You think you can come and leave our potion and tool pavilions base that easily? A little warrior at original God realm using space power to create the tunnel in front of me. You don't know how high the sky is, do you? He used the same space power to crush the tunnel Shi Yan's had created. Xia Xianyan had to hover in the air. Shi Yin had just calmed his mood, but now was enraged again. And this time, it was extreme. He burst out the negative energy in his entire body, as if he were actually out of his mind. The sharp sword in his hand slashed the void, as countless blood shadows expanded, surrounding Jiaduo. Shi Yin suddenly felt another space node being smashed down. At this moment, the space nodes around this life star number 9 were completely dysfunctional. This also meant the other had completed blockading the life star, and Jiaduo had smashed Shi Yan's last chance to escape. It combusted his raging flame. The blood sword swayed in his hand, sending negative energy to fill up Jiaduo's soul area like a real sea. Jiaduo's cold face seemed confused. He frowned, as if he had to struggle in pain. Swish! A blood light drew in the sky with a marvelous trajectory and perfect curve. It seemed about to have Jiaduo's god body. Bettina and Fu Wei emerged from the lake. When they looked up, they saw the idol Jiaduo. The blood light would chop him off in the next second, causing them to pale in fright. They could never imagine Shi Yin had such power to take over Jiaduo's mind, make him discolor, and not have the ability to even parry. Don't! Xia Xianyan was also frightened as she hurried to make some hand seals. Her energy fluctuated magically as if it could stop time. The blood light column that was about to cut Jiaduo was slowed down strangely, and everybody else was also affected. They were slowed down as their time was controlled. Even Shi Yin wasn't an exception. He felt that the time moved so slow, while his surging energy reduced. Only Xia Xianyan wasn't affected. Her graceful body swayed and hurried to pull Jiaduo out of the danger zone. Swish! The blood light column resumed its real speed, striking down like lightning. However, Jiaduo had disappeared. The blood light fell on the lake and separated the water. The power of this slash was earth-shaking indeed. What happened? Xia Xianyan screamed. Her voice had something magical that woke up Shi Yin in his madness, as if he had a bucket of ice water pouring on his head. Warriors of the potion and tool pavilion gathered, surrounding him in layers. Bettina and Fu Wei were still frightened. They hadn't recovered yet, standing by Jiaduo. Jiaduo was still dizzy, struggling in his mind. Bettina had a bad grimace. She turned to glare at Fu Wei. Is this the friend you say? You have to explain this to me. Fu Wei's blue eyes were full of confusion. She stood baffled, not knowing what to say. Kill him, Bettina ordered, her voice cold. Warriors of potion and tool pavilion gathered. They were all enraged and wanted to slaughter him. At this moment, Xia Xianyan suddenly shouted ear-splittingly. She let out a clear, gentle whistle. Giant battleships marched from the dark clouds of the Life Star Number 9 and gathered like the dark clouds by Xia Xian Yin. She said with a cold face that reflected no other emotion. Whoever dares to touch him will be my archenemy. Bettina and Fu Wei were shocked, and even the warriors of Windstorm didn't have a clue. They all wore a baffled face. Jaduo woke up as his mind wasn't occupied anymore. He gasped for his breath, shouting, "Kill that brat!" Xia Xian Yin fixed her cold eyes on Jaduo, talking slowly, "If you move, I'll kill you." Everybody was startled. "You? Why do you need to protect him?" Bettina was shaken, but she seemed to get it. You guys, you've known each other before?" "Yeah, he's a friend from my homeland." Xia Xian Yin took a deep breath. Still wearing a cold complexion, she asked quietly, "Shi Yin, what has happened?" The last space node was broken, and Shi Yin knew that his plan was no longer feasible. His eyes recovered their original color as he retrieved the blood sword, sighing. "Jaduo, you try to sense the changes of the space nodes around this planet." Jaduo looked icy cold as he released his soul consciousness. Immediately, he felt like he had just fallen into an ice chamber. He couldn't help but shiver. "What's happened?" Bettina was astounded. "All the space nodes around the Life Star Number 9 have been destroyed. We lost the connection to the world outside." "I can't take you guys out of here," Jaduo said with a trembling voice. "Someone wants to eradicate us." After he said that, everybody fell into a terrible crisis. They looked at the sky and felt the invisible pressure, which was approaching like an imposing mountain. "He destroyed the last space channel I built. We can't leave either." Shi Yin shook his head while talking to Xia Xian Yin, his face dispirited. Everybody finally understood why Shi Yin had acted crazily. "Open all the defensive barriers. Prepare for a bloody battle." Bettina pondered for a few seconds and then pitched her voice. Suddenly, she had a scepter in her hand, using it to poke the air and release hundreds of dim blue, dark green, and orange-red lightning strikes towards every corner of the star. The dim, gray surface of the planet now had 3 light curtains in dim blue, dark green, and red-orange hues, which looked like 3 different seas. They layered together, beginning to protect the entire planet. Chapter 1028, Renovator. Chapter 1028, Renovator _ Bettina held the scepter, looking at the sky with a cold and stern face. A cold light sparkled in her face. Potion and Tool Pavilion has had many internal battles. For the throne of Pavilion Master, we used to have some great wars. However, we have never had any exposing elder murder cases except for the first time. Bettina's face was cold, talking indignantly. "Zhuolu is mad this time." Jaduo and Fu Wei paled, clenching their fists. In their rage, they hated that they couldn't jump on Great Elder Zhuolu to fight him and make him pay a bloody price. The space channel that the Dark Shadow Clan has been combing for several thousand years is about to clear. God Clan will come. Before its great army arrives, they will stir up and put Agate Star area into complete chaos. This is the mission of your Great Elder in charge. He has to rush anyway. Once he gets the approval of the God Clan, he will have the power that he has never had before. It's normal if he has started to act ruthlessly. Shi Yin frowned. His voice was calm as he slowly exposed the ugly truth. Bettina, Jaduo, and Fu Wei looked horrified. They looked at Shi Yin, but they didn't say a word. After a while, Bettina shouted, "Are you telling the truth?" Previously, she had a lousy prejudice towards Shi Yin. She didn't believe in what Shi Yin said. She thought that Shi Yin was trying to catch their attention, especially Xia Xian Yin's, to earn her favor. However, after this commotion, Bettina had changed. She started to consider what Shi Yin had said. Jaduo also contemplated. His most significant doubt was that Shi Yin could extract the memory of an ethereal God Realm Dark Shadow Clan expert while having only original God Realm. He thought that Shi Yin was lying. However, he didn't think so at this moment. Shi Yin came frantically and his slash had almost destroyed the protection of the lake. He had hurt dozens of guards at original God Realm. At the same time, Shi Yin had a strange power that could blur his mind. If Xia Xian Yin hadn't stopped Shi Yin, he would have been killed. And he was at third sky of ethereal god realm. No one dared to scorn Shi Yin anymore. At this moment, Bettina, Jia Duo, and Fu Wei though that Shi Yan's formidable powers were immeasurable. They didn't know his real power's limitation. Although they didn't trust him at first because of his rocketing power, now they had to consider his words. I don't care if you trust him or not. I absolutely trust him. At this moment, Xia Xian Yin naturally stood by Shi Yin. It looked like her trust would never change even if the sun and the moon didn't rise anymore. Her attitude would never change. It was a solid trust that would never be shaken. Initially, I intended to go with him and check the space channel that Dark Shadow Clan has been clearing after I was done with you guys. Then, I would have spread that news all over Agate Star area. Xia Xian Yin knitted her brows. But this plan couldn't catch up with the situation. I didn't think that our danger would come that fast. Seems like we'll be surrounded for a while. The danger was coming. She was still calm. She wasn't flustered. Her bearing was elegant and indifferent. Shi Yan's eyes brightened as he inwardly complimented her performance. For 100 years, she had fought alone in Agate Star area. He didn't know how many tricky situations she had experienced to practice and accomplish her now naturally placid bearing. She was much stronger than she used to be. I'll find the evidence of what you've told us. Bettina took a deep breath. She nodded and then faced the sky. In the meantime, no one can leave Life Star number 9. I've opened all the barriers outside the star. As we can make the defense earlier, we won't have a fatal situation. Fu Wei and Jia Duo were petrified. Xia Xian Yan's face was calm and natural as she said, I wonder if they know that we, the Windstorm War Department, are also here. Of course they know, sighed Fu Wei, looking at the other woman strangely. The Great Elder keeps the satellite eye. It's as easy as flipping his hand to get information about the situation here. I think, in his plan, he has considered some unexpected factors, including you guys. Then, did their plan include a first sky of incipient God Realm expert in my Windstorm War Department? Xia Xian Yin gave a quiet smile. Bettina, Jia Duo, and Fu Wei were filled with joy. Precursor Feng Yin, called Xia Xian Yin. From the battleship above her head descended a little girl around 1 meter tall. She hovered and steadied her body by Xia Xian Yin, giving a slight nod. That little girl was small and cute. Although her body looked graceful, she was wearing a shabby gray robe accompanied with a pointy hat like a witch hat in legends. That little girl looked to be in the bright and sweet phase of her youth. However, her eyes looked archaic and deep as if they were old cuts worn out by time. Looking into her eyes, no one could imagine her at such a young age. Quite the contrary, they would think that she was a white-headed senile woman who had already put one foot into her grave. Bettina glanced over her. She was shocked. She cried, Are you really Feng Yin Mei Mei? Bettina, long time no see. The little girl called Feng Yin grinned, talking indifferently. It has been several thousand years and we haven't met. You're still stagnant in ethereal god realm. No wonder Wise Walu can become Great Elder of Potion and Tool Pavilion, and you are just the third elder. Bettina looked bitter. I'm not like Swalu. I've mastered forging tools. I've been cultivating strenuously as told by Potion and Tool Pavilion's guidelines. I'm different from him. Why do you look like this? Feng Yin frowned, talking indifferently. When I broke through incipient god realm, I got a problem. I begrudgingly reincarnated to cultivate again. I was lucky that I could figure out my mistakes and make up for it. Eventually, I reached first sky of incipient god realm. It was worth my reincarnation, though. You have used 1,000 years to recover your realm and advance? Bettina was surprised. Fu Wei and Jia Duo admired and respected her efforts. People who cultivated to be a warrior didn't have eternal lives. Many warriors, when breaking through to incipient god realm at peak of ethereal god realm, faced a deadly danger. However, among 100 experts, there were only 2 brave and wise enough to sacrifice their cultivation base and use the soul to reincarnate. This required a great effort and willpower. 1,000 years wasn't a short period to anybody. She had given up everything, scattered her energy, and left only her soul to renovate later. Which characteristics did this task require? However, if she had decided not to renovate her power and retreat when she encountered difficulty, she would have remained as a third sky of ethereal god realm expert, a famous expert. However, she would never have advanced to incipient god realm later. This rule was like steel. However, an expert who decided to reincarnate needed a specific power, or else he wouldn't gather enough memory of the previous life. During several thousand years of rebuilding his power, he would be like a toddler who started to walk. He might encounter more dangers so that he would eventually completely vanish before he could gather his full memory. From another aspect, reincarnation and renovation of realm required more courage than retreating when facing difficulty. Of course, the advantage was clear. Once he could restore his full memory and power, he could break through to incipient god realm smoothly. Feng Yan belonged to this group of brave experts. She had erased her cultivation base of peak of ethereal god realm and started all over again in this infant body. She had struggled before her memory was fully restored. Eventually, she walked back to the peak and broke the barrier to enter first sky of incipient god realm. Her experience makes people admire and respect her. If they have only one incipient god realm expert and not at second sky of incipient god realm, I think I can counter them, Feng Yan said faintly, facing the sky. She looked like a calm well that didn't ripple. I'm more confident having you here. Bettina didn't conceal her joy. We know their plan. As long as we arrange properly to resist, we may have a chance to survive this disaster. Bettina's scepter suddenly flew up into the sky, turning into 3 fire columns of dim blue, dark green, and red-orange colors, and moving to 3 imposing mountain ranges of this star. Shortly after, the 3 mountain ranges on the surface of the life star number 9 had their energy surge like a tsunami. The highest mountain of each mountain range exploded, shooting the dim blue, dark green, and red-orange light columns into the sky. They contributed more energy to the 3 light curtains covering the planet. From outer space, people would find life star number 9 be covered in a sea of light with 3 different hues of blue, green, and red-orange. This kind of light protection was immense, bobbing with surging energy. Shi Yin lifted his head to see the 3 seas of energy above his head, which were so transparent that he could still see the dark universe out there. He could even see the shooting stars crossing space. He understood that this light curtain didn't restrain warriors with star power. His soul consciousness could get through the barrier, though. Thinking about Potion and Tool Pavilion's usual deeds, he immediately recognized that it was because he was staying inside the light curtain. It would be much more difficult for people outside to use the soul consciousness to sense the commotion on the planet. It would be very strenuous to break this protective halo. A sound stone emerged from Bettina's palm. It looked like a big emerald. She talked to the stone. Although the sound waves of the sound stones couldn't get through the space out there, it wasn't affected when talking to the warriors in the same life star. Shortly after, many battleships based in life star number 9 started their engines. At the same time, thousands of Potion and Tool Pavilion's warriors emerged from the underground, gathering like a rising tide. The enemy is going to invade us. Prepare for a deadly battle. Bettina became sane. Seeing the crowd of Potion and Tool Pavilion's guards coming, she lifted her head to look at the horizon and then sat down quietly by the lake. Jiaduo and Fu Wei were astounded for a while. They said nothing but followed Bettina to sit down. They took out the fragranced pellets to restore their powers. They had to prepare for the coming battle. Xia Xian Yin glanced at the horizon and then at Feng Yin. She said gently, "Precursor Feng Yin, please take care of Windstorm War Department. It originally belonged to you." Feng Yin nodded, talking lovingly. "You must be tired after talking to Potion and Tool Pavilion. Take a good rest then." Xia Xian Yin smiled softly. She winked at Shi Yin and then silently flew towards a lush valley with a lot of blooming flowers outside the lake. Shi Yin rubbed his nose and followed her. Feng Yin slightly frowned looking at the two disappearing, but she said nothing. Fu Wei closed her eyes to cultivate. Her eyelids twitched as her eyes opened slightly, watching the other two enter the valley with a complicated face. Chapter 1029. Crystal Eater. Chapter 1029. Crystal Eater _. Inside the flower-blooming valley, two small streams crossed each other while birds sang. Although this place didn't have a star or a moon, it was illuminated and it felt like spring. You knew there was a 90% chance that it died. Why did you return? Xia Xian Yin and Shi Yin held hands, whispering to each other. Didn't ask for a reason. I don't care about your windstorm war department. I asked you to leave with me, and you jumped in directly. Why did you do that? Shi Yin chuckled, his eyes brilliant. The two of them fell in a short silence before bursting out with laughter. They understood each other enough so they didn't need to express with words. Shi Yin looked at the three-colored energy river above their heads. In a low voice, Shi Yin began to tell her what had happened to him for 100 years since he left Grace Mainland. He told her everything, including his little affair with Feng Rao and the knot he had with Ziyao. He didn't want to miss a small detail, his face calm and natural. Xia Xian Yin was smiling. She listened to him attentively without intervening. However, when he told her about his affections with Feng Rao and Ziyao, she threw him a charming glare. Afterward, it was her turn to tell him the difficulties she had experienced in the chaotic space basin that year. She had to struggle a lot before she reached Shadow Ghostly Prison. While she was striving, she got favor from the hegemon of Fighting League. Slowly, she gained her position and became the leader of Windstorm War Department. Her realm had increased. She got her attainment and status. In this flower-filled valley, they seemed to forget the coming disaster. They were holding hands, sitting shoulder by shoulder, and whispering to each other like an intimate couple. They felt so peaceful and calm ever since they had arrived at this place. After an unknown time, battleships appeared one by one in the void above their heads. They got up with worries, walking out of the valley. Devil Blood Star. Blood Devil was soaking his naked body in the mysterious blood pond. His vigorous body was as red as burning iron. There was a gleam of death in his eyes as he was studying the truth of Death Power Upanishad. This blood pond was really big. In some other areas, some members of the Yang family with the immortal martial spirit were also soaking in the pond. They were using the pure energy of the pond to clean their bodies and condense immortal demon blood. They looked stern, but they were actually thrilled. Blood Devil suddenly frowned, changing his countenance. He lifted his head to look at the immense void as if he was sensing something. After a while, he left the blood pond and flew away with a grimace. He got into the main palace of Blood Devil Star, summoning Wu Lan and the other subordinates. They started a secret meeting. A long time afterward, the battleships departed from Devil Blood Star. They quietly headed towards Shadow Ghostly Prison. Blood Devil left alone to go to Monster Dragon Star. No one knew what he was planning. Dark Shadow Clan. Above Life Star number 9, which was hidden behind the Energy Sea, hovered battleships of the Ghostmark Clan and Dark Shadow Clan. Crocker, Hammer, and Du Lin were floating between the battleships. Looking at the light curtain under their feet, they all frowned. It's the tricolor sea of Potion and Tool Pavilion. Hammer took a deep breath and said, the tricolor sea is the divine protection weapon of Potion and Tool Pavilion. It uses billions of divine crystals underground as the source of energy. It looks like the three seas are mingling with each other, but in fact, it's created by hundreds of layers of barriers. It's magical indeed. Potion and Tool Pavilion has never sold it. Du Lin sent a wisp of his soul consciousness like a lightning strike. When he touched the light curtain, he felt an explosion in his soul, his body shaking. Hammer snorted, talking coldly. I heard that the tricolor sea could prevent even incipient God Realm's powers. Although you have extraordinary powers, you've just reached ethereal God Realm. You shouldn't cause pain to yourself. Rubbed his head, Du Lin nodded, his eyes strangely bright. Yeah, it's powerful. I'm afraid I can't break it myself. Seems like I have to bother you, two precursors. He looked at Cocker and Hammer. Apparently, Cocker and Hammer were at incipient God Realm. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said so. The protection of the tricolor sea is really tough. As Cocker and I are at first sky of incipient God Realm, we can break it if we join hands. However, it would drain our energy massively. Hammer pondered for a while and then said, Use the attacking formations of the battleships to bombard it. If we use several hundred battleships shelling it at the same time, I think we can break it after 1 hour max. Then we can get into that star. Hammer looked at Cocker of the Dark Shadow clan. In Agate Star area, Potion and Tool Pavilion's application of barriers and formation was much more profound than that any other force. The tricolor protection cage they didn't sell was famous in the entire star area. From Zwalu, Hammer knew how powerful the tricolor sea was. He knew if they wanted to break this kind of defensive halo, they had to use a tough method, which was to bombard it continually and violently. They couldn't stop midway. Or else, the divine crystals underground would supplement more energy to the tricolor sea. It would become formidable once again. Our Dark Shadow clan has also heard about the tricolor sea's protection ability. Cocker was indifferent. He grinned coldly. This defensive light cage is supported by divine crystals. It's a headache to solve in your Agate Star area, but to us, it's nothing. Cocker said arrogantly. Hummer and Du Lin changed their countenances listening to him. Cocker said nothing more. He called his troopers, his eyes icy cold. A dark shadow warrior riding a butterfly war chariot hurried to approach him. He asked respectfully, "What do you need, sir?" "Release the Crystal Eater," hissed Cocker. The dark shadow warrior nodded. He left to the battleships of the Dark Shadow clan to spread the order. Shortly after, they saw many balls fly out from the battleships of the Dark Shadow clan. Those balls were blue-brown, which made them look like stones. However, they had many black spikes, rolling towards the tricolor sea covering life star number 9. The hedgehog balls scattered when they fell on the surface of the energy sea. They changed quickly. The balls cracked, releasing the beasts, which looked like rats. Those beasts had mouths full of sharp teeth. Their bead-like eyes glistened as they were gnawing the light curtain. Hammer and Du Lin gawked. The tricolor sea set up by Potion and Tool Pavilion suddenly shrank as the alien crystal eaters were chewing it. The beasts swallowed the glowing energy lines. Their small eyes sparkled happily. They had eaten until their tummies were bloated. They looked so satisfied. As long as the restriction or barrier uses energy from divine crystals, the crystal eaters can swallow them all. This is our unique strength. The defensive halo of Potion and Tool Pavilion on your Agate Star area can't stand those crystal eaters, said Cocker arrogantly. Hammer and Du Lin quietly watched the tricolor sea disappear little by little. Their faces became odd as they were both excited and fearful. At this moment, they had finally realized how intimidating the Dark Shadow clan was. Being the dominant force that didn't belong to any mundane forces, Potion and Tool Pavilion had to use so much manpower and effort to create the tricolor sea. However, it was simply destroyed by a horde of alien beasts. The two of them felt frightened. They glanced at Cocker as they thought that this mysterious force of shadow ghostly prison wasn't ordinary at all. Standing by the crystal-clear lake, they could see its bottom. Bettina was full of confidence as she said that the tricolor sea of the Potion and Tool Pavilion wasn't something the enemy could solve easily. However, shortly after, she was shaken as she looked at the sky, her face pale. Feng Yin, Jiaduo, Fu Wei, Xia Xian Yin, Shi Yin, and many warriors of Potion and Tool Pavilion looked at the sky. Then, they all made their ugliest grimaces. How can it be? Jiaduo screamed. They dissolved the tricolor sea. Gosh, does Zwalu know how to solve it? Impossible. The tricolor sea isn't something Zwalu can solve easily. It's not what Zwalu can do. Bettina had a trickle of blood on the corner of her mouth. I've never seen this kind of strange beast before. This isn't a kind from Agate Star area. At least, I have never seen it in my whole life. Dark Shadow Clan, Xia Xian Yin said with a cold face. It's the Dark Shadow Clan's trick. I heard my hegemon said that they could break all kinds of formations and barriers that use divine crystals as the source of energy. In Shadow Ghostly Prison, Dark Shadow Clan has used the same trick to eradicate many forces. Listening to her, Bettina, Jiaduo, and Fu Wei felt chills sent down their spines. They knitted their brows tightly. It's not a trick of Dark Shadow Clan. While people were panicking, Shi Yin sighed and said, it's the trick of the God Clan. Those alien beasts are called crystal eaters. The God Clan breeds them. The Dark Shadow Clan got those beasts from the God Clan. I told you that Dark Shadow Clan is the watchdog of the God Clan. Now you can confirm that. People were shocked. They looked at him in fright. I got the information from that ethereal God realm Dark Shadow Man. I know the secret of those crystal eaters. This kind of beast is originated in a mysterious area of this universe. The God Clan had captured them. They brought the beasts to God's Star area and bestowed them to the vassal clans. The Dark Shadow Clan was one of the vassal clans of God Clan. Lifting his head to watch the alien beasts chew off the energy barrier, Shi Yin felt helpless and he didn't have a solution. We shouldn't depend on the defensive halo above our heads. Prepare to engage in a deadly battle. That light curtain can endure for a long time. Is there any way to kill the crystal eaters? Asked Feng Yin all of a sudden. You have to get out there. The crystal eaters can swallow the energy generated from divine crystals, but they can't resist energy from warriors. Shi Yin shook his head. But I think the warriors of the Dark Shadow Clan and the Ghost Mark Clan out there won't give us a chance to do that. If you get out alone, you will bear the bombarding from thousands of warriors. Perhaps they have incipient God Realm experts. You can't stand it. People became so stern. Their confidence was smashed since the Crystal Eaters had appeared. They couldn't gather their courage once again. Get underground. Bettina watched the sky. She pondered for a while and then ordered with pain. Get down. Get underground. Now. While she was talking, the lake nearby cracked, revealing a bottomless cave. Battleships of Potion and Tool Pavilion hovering in the sky lined up, entering the cave one by one. The guards of Potion and Tool Pavilion all grimaced as they knew that it was the last defense of Potion and Tool Pavilion when they had to get underground. Chapter 1030. Protect the Territory. Chapter 1030. Protect the Territory _. After he had entered the inside of the Life Star, Shi Yin got to know Potion and Tool Pavilion style and using money. The space inside Life Star number 9 had almost been exploited. Besides the main hall, Shi Yin felt like he had entered the world of blinking stars. This subterranean world had many wide stone roads, leading to every corner. It also had many grand palaces. The parking area here was large enough to keep several hundred battleships. According to Bettina, this planet had been dug to thousands of meters below sea level. It had dozens of groups of palaces. Each group of palaces was protected with many complex structures of formations. Those palaces were divided into different areas that were specialized for refining pellets, forging tools, building battleships, storage of ingredients, or storages of divine crystals. This entire planet looked like a mighty fortress. Each palace had hundreds to thousands of warriors at different realms. Most of them had King God Realm or Original God Realm. The competence of Potion and Tool Pavilion could be seen from the inside of this planet. Underground, Life Star number 9 had 3 divine crystal mines. The unexploited divine crystals in those mines were the energy foundation of the defensive tricolor sea. A hexagonal mirror projected the 3 divine mines. Each mine was fulgent with piles of billions of top-quality divine crystals. At this moment, through the mirror, they could see the divine crystal mines radiating beautiful divine light. Streams of energy like rivers flowed up into the sky, supplementing energy for the tricolor sea. If the enemy didn't have crystal eaters of the Dark Shadow Clan, they would have had to consume a lot of energy and effort to just bypass tricolor sea's defense. In the meantime, everybody was so solemn. No one could relax. In the mirror, the 3-colored energy sea in the sky was chewed off little by little. At this speed, within an hour, the defense they got up there would be destroyed. It was lucky that they had evacuated everyone to the inside of the planet. They still had the last defense. Otherwise, when the enemy grumblingly descended, the bloody battle would have taken place immediately. The outer layer of this life star was made of azure lava. Azure lava was an extremely tough stone material. It was the primary material of many battleships, which were fabricated with many types of rock. The azure lava layer of this planet was 300 meters thick. Even the energy artilleries of our Potion and Tool Pavilion can't break it easily. It's our natural defense, Bettina said with a serious face. There are 3 entrances to the subterranean world. Besides this lake, the other 2 entrances are heavily guarded. If they want to get down here, they have to attack the 3 entrances. Shi Yin, Xia Xian Yin, and Feng Yin were listening to her. They didn't intervene. What we should do now is guard the 3 entrances. Bettina paused for a while, and then looked at Xia Xian Yin and Feng Yin. Can your windstorm guard one of them? Xia Xian Yin smiled, nodded, and gave her a resolute answer. Not a problem. You just arrange it. Bettina sighed and said, 3,000 miles west stands an extinct volcano. The mouth of that volcano is one of the entrances. I leave it to you guys. Okay, replied Xia Xian Yin. You take this fantasy mirror. We can use it to transfer images onto this planet. You can contact me directly. I'll ask Fu Wei to take you there. Bettina pondered for a while and then continued, Feng Yin Mei. When we find incipient God Realm experts, please help us. Feng Yin nodded quietly. Fu Wei, you take them to that entrance, Bettina advised. Fu Wei stood on a stone-paved road, which was 100 meters high and more than 1,000 meters wide. They didn't know how long or deep it stretched. The windstorm battleships were floating on that road, and they didn't need to squeeze in at all. It showed Potion and Tool Pavilion's efforts in building this place. Under her instruction, Shi Yin, Feng Yin, and Xia Xian Yin got on a flying bird battleship of the windstorm. They slowly moved away on the stone-paved road. On the battleship, Fu Wei often glanced at Shi Yin and Xia Xian Yin with her blue eyes, her complexion strange. Shi Yin had left, and then returned with the outrage that he had almost killed people. He wanted to take Xia Xian Yin away with him, and Xia Xian Yin, with her high position in Fighting League, didn't hesitate to go with him even before making everything clear. This kind of absolute trust had surprised Fu Wei a lot. Until this moment, she knew Shi Yin and Xia Xian Yin had a relationship which wasn't normal at all. Linking to Shi Yin's unusual commotion in the main hall, she could vaguely recognize something. She finally realized that Shi Yin went out of control, not because of Xia Xian Yin's glamour. Their small joke didn't harm anyone. Then, their disheveled clothes after they got out of the secret room weren't caused by a battle. Fu Wei was a bit embarrassed as she knew she misunderstood Shi Yin. However, when she realized the truth, she didn't want to apologize. Actually, she was pissed off. She thought that Shi Yin had deceived her, which made her indignant, and her attitude towards Shi Yin became not as warm as it used to be. How smart was Xia Xian Yin? At first glance, she knew the woman's mind. Xia Xian Yin then smiled gently, walking towards her. How are you related to Shi Yin? At this moment, Shi Yin was sitting quietly on the back of the dock. He stooped and closed his eyes as if he was preparing himself before the great battle. He was adjusting his energy and mind. He wanted to engage in this battle with his best condition. He didn't eavesdrop the 2 ladies' conversation. No, not related. Fu Wei was a little anxious when facing Xia Xian Yin. She spoke strangely, we're just friends. He used to help me a lot. I appreciate his kindness. Besides that, nothing else. Is that so? Xia Xian Yin smiled weakly. I can tell that you care about him a lot, right? I know his characteristics. He's flirty. He's not content with his lot. Has he ever teased you? Fu Wei was mild-mannered. She easily got shy. Listening to Xia Xian Yin, she couldn't help but blush. She instinctively remembered the romantic moment when they drank, passionate, together. She remembered Shi Yin touching her body. She became flustered and didn't know how to answer her. Xia Xian Yin smiled again, glancing at Shi Yin sitting quietly in the back. He didn't look tense before a great battle. She smiled and said, he's heartless indeed. Don't think that he has a deep affection for you if he flirts with you. I understand him deeply. He often teases the beautiful women. Then, he will throw you away like his old shoes. He won't miss you a bit. My advice to you, you'd better stay away from him. It's not going to give you anything good. You will have more sorrow. Fu Wei was baffled. She looked at Xia Xian Yin. Pondering for a while, she asked, so has he ever flirted with you? Did he ditch you like his old shoes? Xia Xian Yin was numb. She had a feeling that she just tied herself up by her own rope. Contemplating for a while, She smiled charmingly. It's different with us. I think you can see it too. He knows he might be killed this time. But still, he came back for me. Yeah, you're a smart girl, so you know what it means, I suppose. Fu Wei had a bitter face. Of course, she wasn't a fool. She knew why Xia Xian Yin said these things to her. She was protecting her territory. She didn't allow any other woman to trespass. I have nothing ambiguous with him. You're overthinking it. She pulled herself together, sighed, and then talked weakly. Xia Xian Yin smiled and nodded. It's good then. Turning around, her bright eyes looked at the young man sitting quietly and solemnly behind. She cursed him under her breath, glaring at him maliciously. That bastard can't stay idle. When you were in Raging Flame Star area, I wasn't there. So you had the chance to mess around with 2 women. Now that I'm here, I will never let you do anything rash. Shi Yin suddenly opened his eyes as if he had felt her indignant look. Shi Yin was surprised. Looking at her for a while, he smiled brightly. He didn't look embarrassed at all. He made her smile and angry at the same time. Here we are. Shortly after, Fu Wei screamed quietly, looking up. 100 battleships of the Windstorm War Department were anchored by a spacious and luxurious palace, which was as big as dozens of football yards. It looked like a small-sized city. Above their heads was a brilliant mountain range. Rings of 5-colored light illuminated the mountain range. They linked together, and there were around 100 of them. Those light rings were crystal clear that they could see the overcast sky through them. They could even see the battleships of the Ghost Mark clan and the Dark Shadow clan above the clouds. Those light curtains were apparently defensive barriers. They layered above their heads like waves with fierce energy fluctuations. Shi Yin got up, frowning and walking to Fu Wei. Potion and Tool Pavilion is the superpower force of the star area, but you don't have incipient God Realm experts? Bettina and Jaduo are at Ethereal God Realm, but if you got only the experts at their realm, how could you protect your welfare? Why did you ask this? Fu Wei seemed to not want to answer him. Shi Yin was astounded. He looked at her deeply and then glanced at Xia Xian Yin, who was smiling gently next to him. He suddenly got something. Of course, he saw that Xia Xian Yin and Fu Wei had talked to each other. He also knew Xia Xian Yin wasn't a plain woman. She was famous for her intelligence while they were still in Grace Mainland. After she had arrived in Agate Star area, within a short period of 100 years, she had stepped on the peak of glory in Fighting League. Of course, he knew Xia Xian Yin had a deep love for him. He understood her well. He knew that she had said something to Fu Wei, which had changed Fu Wei's attitude towards him. Glaring at Xia Xian Yin, he didn't say anything. To him, Fu Wei was just a passenger who he met on his train of life. He didn't have any deep affection towards her. Thus, he wouldn't get mad at Xia Xian Yin because of her. However, he was just curious. As Potion and Tool Pavilion was praised as the most mysterious and powerful force, if they said that they didn't have incipient God Realm experts to guard the shrine, he wouldn't believe it. Potion and Tool Pavilion has 3 incipient God Realm experts. Xia Xian Yin could see his doubts, smiling and explaining. But all 3 of them are cultivating in seclusion. Unless Potion and Tool Pavilion encounters big troubles, they won't come out to deal with it. They won't participate in the internal competition between elders in the pavilion. The elders have to do things to get their power. However, the internal competition of Potion and Tool Pavilion is a big issue in the entire Agate Star area. It could get more forces from everywhere involved in this mess. For example, the Great Elder, Zhualu, can affect the Ghost Mark clan. And I heard that the 3rd Elder has a good relationship with the Wood clan. Is that so? She looked at Fu Wei. Fu Wei nodded quietly. If 3rd Elder could contact them, as soon as they know our situation, the Wood clan will send their hotshots to help us. However, I'm afraid that we can't count on the Wood clan. The tricolor C is torn off. Feng Yin was always quiet. She hissed all of a sudden, her face solemn. Everybody faced the sky, their complexions changing. Chapter 1031. A Bloody Battle. Chapter 1031. A Bloody Battle _ Through the volcano mouth above their heads, they saw many battleships tear the sky to plunge into the atmosphere. Feng Yin, Fu Wei and Xia Xian Yin looked through the slit in the sky, their countenances solemn. Shi Yin suddenly remembered something, turning to face Fu Wei. Do the protective barriers up there use divine crystals as the source of energy? Fu Wei was bewildered. She opened the fantasy mirror, which showed her dozens of warriors in potion and tool pavilions uniforms. They were sitting neatly while waves of colorful lights rippled from their bodies. Those halos had many colors streaming together into many round crystals platforms. Fu Wei sighed and explained, "Seems like Third Elder has a proper arrangement this time. We don't use divine crystals as the source of energy." She pointed at dozens of potion and tool pavilions warriors, most of them at original God Realm or ethereal God Realm. They're using the energy in their bodies to guide the barriers. That's how we prevent the crystal eaters. Shi Yin nodded, saying nothing more. After 15 minutes, dozens of ghost mark battleships slowly emerged above the extinct volcano above their heads. The leader, surprisingly, was Du Lin. Du Lin frowned, watching the mouth of the extinct volcano. He said something to a dark shadow warrior. Then, they released around 10 crystal eaters. They crawled on the 5-colored barriers like spiders. They intended to chew off the energy of those barriers. Apparently, it didn't turn out as they had expected. The crystal eaters cried loudly while creeping on the barriers. They had tried, but they couldn't eat off any part of the energy of those barriers. The dark shadow warrior shook his head reluctantly, indicating that the crystal eaters couldn't do anything this time. Du Lin frowned, thinking. He then ordered something. Right after that, their battleships started to fire scorching lightning dragons, bombarding the barriers. Their explosive energy impacted the light curtains. Through the mirror, Fu Wei saw that the warriors of Potion and Tool Pavilion shook hard, their faces pale. They were using energy in their bodies to support the protective light. Du Lin's battleships used divine crystals to generate dozens of lightning strikes that struck the barriers. This formidable impact had almost burst off the volcano, sending electric sparks everywhere. Fu Wei looked at Du Lin appear above her head. She sighed, her face grim. This Du Lin is the hotshot of the Ghost Mark clan's current generation. Great Elders Wu Lu favors him a lot. Indeed, he's not an ordinary person. Feng Yin gazed at Du Lin, talking darkly. Xia Xian Yin smiled, glancing at Shi Yin next to her, her face nonchalant. Third sky of ethereal God realm, a whole realm higher than yours. Later when they barge in, you shouldn't storm over passionately. Shi Yin was surprised, rubbing his nose but not retorting. An incipient God realm expert is coming. Feng Yin was startled, knitting her brows. She sensed quietly for a while, talking. Not only one, two. They're heading to 2 different entrances. They seem to understand the defensive structure of Life Star number 9 thoroughly, don't they? Shi Yin looked at Fu Wei. Fu Wei beamed a forced smile. Great Elder knows all the life stars of Potion and Tool Pavilion like the back of his hand. If this is planned by him, it's not a surprise that they know the entrances. Precursor Feng Yin, Shi Yin, let's talk in private. As Xia Xian Yin heard 2 incipient God Realm experts were coming, she became stern, talking immediately. Fu Wei was surprised. She proactively walked to another battleship of the Windstorm War Department. She expressed that she didn't want to eavesdrop. Precursor Feng Yin, if Potion and Tool Pavilion can't resist, you will evacuate us. Xia Xian Yin took a deep breath, talking determinedly. They must be aiming only at Potion and Tool Pavilion. Although our Windstorm War Department has a good relationship with them, we aren't going to sell our lives to them. I think the enemy doesn't know that you're here. The moment we can't resist anymore, we should find a chance to get away. Don't get too involved and end up dying here with Potion and Tool Pavilion's people. Feng Yin chuckled, nodded, and then said, Don't worry. I've spent 1,000 years to reach incipient God Realm. I don't think I will get myself deep in this mess. How about you? Xia Xian Yin teased. Would you risk your life fighting with the others for Fu Wei? Shi Yin was bewildered. I initially wanted to take you away. I'm not interested in the internal war of Potion and Tool Pavilion. Pausing for a while, he added, Anyway, I like to watch bloody battles. I'm not hurried to leave. To me, my realm would have a better chance to advance in the most brutal areas. I will check the situation first. He had vaguely disclosed the secret of his devouring power Upanishad to Xia Xianyan. He didn't say it too clearly, but Xia Xianyan knew more or less. Listening to him, she said, then you should behave. Don't kill yourself. I will notify you. With Precursor Feng Yin and our windstorm, we have a big chance to break the blockade and get away from this battle. She was confident enough. Shi Yin smiled. Don't worry. I actually love my life. Even if you don't want to leave, I will drag you away. Well, since you're weaker than me, tell me if you feel shame getting dragged away like that? Xia Xianyan grinned. Oh, then I can save my energy, Shi Yin laughed. While the strong enemy was about to attack them, Shi Yin and Xia Xianyan were both placid. They didn't fluster as they still had the mood to tease each other. Feng Yin observed them quietly and didn't say anything. However, she often checked Shi Yin, her eyes showing a gleam of disdain. She knew Xia Xianyan's real identity. She knew about the blood bond between Xia Xianyan's previous life and the hegemon of Fighting Union. Through her time in Fighting League, Xia Xianyan had won battles all across Shadow Ghostly Prison. She had proven her wise and prescient talents. Also, her terrific advancement progress had gained her the approval from the senior management level of the Fighting League. Many young, talented, and handsome men in Fighting League had competed for Xia Xianyan's heart. She had so many admirers, and the number of her perfect matches weren't small. However, Feng Yin had never seen Xia Xianyan give her good face to any young man. Besides cultivating and fighting, she had no signal of living together with any male peer. She kept herself pure. Many people rumored maliciously that she didn't like men and that she had problems with her sexual orientation. But today, Feng Yin found Xia Xianyan putting down her intimidation after meeting Shi Yin. Now she looked like a little girl falling in love. This kind of affection exposed from the heart had surprised Feng Yin a lot. What did a man at only original God realm have to make the daughter of God of the Fighting League behave strangely like that? Feng Yin looked at Shi Yin discreetly. She was confused and she couldn't get over it. Boom! An earth-shaking explosion echoed. The Ghost Mark clan's battleships above their heads gushed out fiery lights, striking continually. Through the fantasy mirror Fu Wei had opened, Shi Yin could see dozens of Potion and Tool Pavilion's warriors unable to endure for longer. 2 original God Realm experts among that group had already vomited blood. Their bodies cracked, bleeding badly. Their eyes were empty as their lives were taken away. Apparently, they were struck to death. The area projected in the fantasy mirror seemed not far from him. Seconds later, 2 flows of essence chi from the death came to him, entering his acupuncture points. He was baffled, but a discreet joy replaced that surprise shortly. You guys can't resist any longer. Xia Xianyan waved at Fu Wei, talking to her when she approached. I think you should lift up the barriers, or else your soldiers will die in vain. They use divine crystals as the energy to attack you while you use the warriors' flesh bodies to resist. You guys will lose, apparently. Compared to that, it's much better to battle once. Perhaps you can save more lives. Xia Xianyan had been used to planning and making strategies for years. She developed keen eyes and her plan didn't have a flaw. She had soon seen the consequence. Fu Wei sighed. She knew that they wouldn't get anything from such a sacrifice. She nodded, took out a soundstone, and sent out her new order. Inside the fantasy mirrors, all the sitting warriors of Potion and Tool Pavilion stood up quietly. They dodged through a door with pale faces. Shi Yin looked at the sky. He saw doors appeared in the tunnel through the mouth of the volcano. Warriors of Potion and Tool Pavilion he had seen in the mirror walked out of those doors. There were several hundred of them. People who came last guarded the doors before they left. They were all alert, looking at the mouth of the volcano with stern countenances. Layers of barriers in the tunnel slowly disappeared. The obstacle shielded the extinct volcano was clear. Ding, 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 ding. The soundstone in Fu Wei's hand resounded hurriedly. Fu Wei held it close to her ear. She paled, talking. Precursor Feng Yin, please come to help the other 2 entrances. Uncle Duo, Can't take it any longer. The incipient God Realm experts also joined in attacking us. Feng Yin frowned. She didn't agree immediately but looked at Xia Xian Yin. Xia Xian Yin pondered and then nodded. She muttered, "If you can't deal with it, please return. I'm here. This place shouldn't be in much danger." Feng Yin nodded, talking to Fu Wei. "Lead me." Fu Wei called a potion and tool pavilion guard from the stone door in the tunnel. He plunged down, landing by her. She advised him in a rush. "Take this precursor to the entrance where Elder Jaduo guards. Quick." The man didn't say anything, flying towards the open stone paved at max speed. Feng Yin floated slowly like a willow catkin. She followed him very quickly. She caught up with that warrior comfortably, as if she could have traveled billions of miles in just a blink. "Send one group in." Du Lin hovered above the volcano. His harsh voice wasn't blocked anymore. Fu Wei, Xia Xian Yin, and Shi Yin could hear him clearly. Per his order, a group of 100 Ghost Mark clansmen descended. All of them were at original God Realm. They violently plunged into the mouth of the extinct volcano, their momentum like a rainbow. With different powers Upanishads, the light of energy from secret treasures poured down like waves, as if they wanted to blow off the tunnel. Warriors of Potion and Tool Pavilion had waited for them for a long time. They jumped off from the caves in the tunnel, storming towards them and releasing their powers Upanishads. In the canal that wasn't large, the bloodiest battle was about to take place. Chapter 1032. That Blood Shield Again. Chapter 1032. That Blood Shield Again. The battle spread like a red fire with the most brutal methods. Warriors of Potion and Tool Pavilion and Ghost Mark clan became meatballs under Shi Yin and Fu Wei's team after they were killed. Lightning strikes, flames, gusts of wind, sleets, and flowing water weaved with each other in this narrow space above their heads. This kind of specific beauty of the battle had frightened people. Shi Yin quietly looked at the sky, his face reddening unhealthily. Pores all over his body opened while he shuddered from time to time. Within that short moment, more than 20 warriors were killed. Their essence chi gushed like water that poured forcefully into his acupuncture points. At this moment, his acupuncture points were swelling. This was a peculiar magical feeling he had when his energy brimmed. The battle against Potion and Tool Pavilion and the Ghost Mark clan was like a bloody feast to Shi Yin. It appeared like a beautiful picture in his sea of consciousness. All of a sudden, his soul altar started to move as his death power Upanishad was expanding uncontrollably. His eyes suddenly brightened like diamonds. He seemed to be able to see the life magnetic fields of those Ghost Mark warriors and Potion and Tool Pavilion's guards. He could see it clearly as if he could see through their skulls and soul altars to take in their life foundation. While fighting, the warriors would have their vitality surge the most. In Shi Yan's eyes, their life magnetic fields were like fantastic fireworks that were constantly changing marvelously. However, when they died, their life magnetic fields ceased like rapidly withering flowers. Shi Yin could see the subtle signs when their life signals disappeared. He was struck. In his eyes, there was no human body. There was only a life magnetic field that was ever-changing. Those life magnetic fields changed from vigorous life to death in just a blink of an eye. He felt like he was watching blooming flowers die, which was beautiful and yet strange. He seemed to be in a magical condition where his soul had escaped his body. His mind changed continually as he lifted his head and watched the sky to see the life magnetic fields change from a healthy condition to no longer existing. That glimpse of beauty flashed, giving him some touching emotions. He sank into it. His soul sublimated while his soul altar vibrated magically. His death and life power stirred up, reflecting those beautiful moments of life and death in his heart. He comprehended quietly. Not long after that, his soul altar started to revolve fast. His death and life power Upanishad seemed to sublimate. A kind of cognition related to death and life multiplied, filling his heart's chambers and giving him a deeper understanding of death and life. His sea of consciousness began to seethe and expand. The essence chi ancient tree in his body grew. Its crystal branches extended upward. The vortex in his lower abdomen slowly moved, creating a fierce suction force. It felt like a bucket of water was poured on his head. He shook, waking up from the miraculous intent domain. He was so baffled. He looked up in the sky and couldn't help but shiver. Ethereal God realm. At this strangely perilous moment, he had used death and life to break through to ethereal God realm, entering a whole new realm. Boom! The body of a potion and tool pavilion's guard fell under his feet, which looked terribly bloody. His life was taken, his eyes begrudgingly desperate. His life magnetic field vanished little by little and became nothing. Retreat. At this moment, Du Lin gave a low shout from the volcano's mouth. Warriors of the Dark Shadow clan, who were soaked in blood, flew up to the mountain's mouth with ferocious faces. Du Lin took a deep breath. A lightning strike appeared in his hand, which started to release thunderbolts. That spear moved like a rainbow, grumblingly descending together with the thunderclaps. The warriors of Potion and Tool Pavilion, who still stayed in the channel, got hit. Their auras vanished instantaneously. Around 10 more warriors of Potion and Tool Pavilion had died tragically under the Thunder God Spear by Du Lin. Du Lin looked cold, his face faint and arrogant. The Thunder God's spear weaved divine lightning that was striking the sky. Another pressing attack was made. Fu Wei paled. She hurried to mobilize her mysterious heavenly glacier. However, she was one beat slower. A magical energy wave rose from Xia Xian Yin like a water curtain. Her time power Upanishad was urged. The breakneck darting spear slowed down. Time moved slowly. Everybody's attacks were held several times slower. Xia Xian Yin frowned, still using her time power Upanishad to resist the Thunder God Spear by Du Lin. She was a little pale, as if it was strenuous for her to parry Du Lin, an expert at third sky of ethereal god realm with his original incipient grade divine weapon. It was over her endurance. Du Lin continued to pour more energy into his Thunder God Spear. However, his spear couldn't move faster. It was sluggish like a snail to the point that it could crack up people's nerves. Although it was slow, the Thunder God Spear was still inching forward. As Xia Xian Yin was using her time power, her energy was consumed rapidly. She looked paler, which hurt Shi Yin. Frowning, Shi Yin slowly inhaled. He was so surprised to find that Simply Move had become so strenuous at this moment. It seemed like his god body was bound by time, and he couldn't move freely. Sluggishly looking at Xia Xian Yin, who was also staring at him, Shi Yin hallucinated that his cognition was also affected. His reflexes had become numerous times slower than in the past. Space Power Upanishad and Time Power Upanishad were indeed marvelously extraordinary powers of this world. Gritting his teeth, Shi Yin shouted. His voices shot away with space power, forcefully tearing the confinement of time. A blood column appeared right in front of Thunder God's spear. It was small at first. Gradually, the blood light expanded, turning into a blood shield with a strangely evil blood mark. A terrifying aura covered the entire channel. Swoosh! Xia Xian Yin bent her waist. She sat down all of a sudden, her eyes tired. Boom! The Thunder God Spear landed, but it couldn't thrust deep into the channel. It couldn't hurt any warriors of Potion and Tool Pavilion in the Windstorm War Department. The blood shield stopped the spear. It acted as the toughest barrier shielding that sharp attack. History was repeating itself. The tip of Thunder God's spear drilled fiercely, but the blood shield stood still. The blood mark glowed, sparkling in the malicious light. It collected the death aura of the surrounding warriors. Blood light expanded like raging flames from the shield. With its sinister aura, it flooded every corner. Du Lin put on a cold face. He perplexedly looked down with fear in his eyes, which was barely recognizable. He pondered for a while, and then took a deep breath. While his thoughts flickered, he wanted to retrieve the spear and carry out his other plan. Break! Shi Yin roared, his terrifying voice shaking and tearing the sky. The mark on the giant blood shield sent out earth-shaking energy waves, which didn't resonate. However, the energy it stored was enough to break the entire world. The Thunder God Spear that Du Lin was controlling couldn't get rid of the constraint. With exploding blood sparks, the spear cried loudly, springing constantly. It seemed to get hit terribly. The thunder god's spear sounded like it was cracking, which was clear and loud like a human skeleton that forcefully broke. Du Lin reddened unhealthily. He felt a bit of sweetness as he had almost vomited blood. He was so frightened. He gathered the energy in his entire body, sending it to the sea of consciousness. He sent the soul consciousness to guide his energy the second time. The thunder god's spear trembled. Eventually, it turned into a lightning strike, returning to Du Lin's palm from the blood shield. Du Lin sighed discreetly. He looked down through the volcano's mouth. He didn't dare to act rashly. He had a grimace as he was trying to confirm something. Inside the extinct volcano on the spacious ground, Fu Wei was perplexed, looking at the gigantic blood shield in the sky. After a while, her neck craned as she moved, looking at Shi Yan. Shi Yan's eyes were red like an enraged, brutal dragon. His murderous aura was so thick that he wanted to tear the sky. That murderous, malicious aura matched with that of the blood shield. When he looked at the shield, his breathing and heartbeat seemed to match that blood shield unconsciously. Fu Wei suddenly understood. She looked at Shi Yan, her face complex. She couldn't help but let out an inaudible sigh. Last time, it was also this blood shield that came to help her resist Du Lin's Thunder God Spear. However, Shi Yan had hidden his deed. He didn't burst out angrily because of her. Today, the blood shield appeared the second time. It wasn't because of her but the woman standing next to her. This time, he didn't hide and stood upright. He was so angry that his hair even rose. He had even harmed Du Lin's Thunder God Spear. Fu Wei felt so bitter. From 2 times he used the blood shield, she was sensitive enough to see that her position in Shi Yan's heart was much smaller than the woman next to her. For Xia Xian Yan, Shi Yan didn't bother to hide his identity. He wasn't afraid to expose his biggest secret. He had even resisted the force he couldn't compare to. He had endured the backlash to make Du Lin pay a big price. Because Du Lin had hurt the woman standing next to her. Although Xia Xian Yan was pale, she was in high spirits. She was baffled as she looked at the blood shield above her head and Shi Yan with his ferocious face standing next to her. She smiled gently. It was a satisfaction that came from the bottom of her soul, making her relax and refreshed. She thought it was enough to have a man who got mad and took risks for her. Shi Yan panted, his eyes garnet. He looked up to see the battleships of the Ghost Mark clan with a clear gleam of wildness in his eyes. He caressed the blood vein ring. A blood-red broadsword appeared. He waved his hand, and the giant blood shield fell in front of him. Holding the shield in one hand while the other hand grabbed the blood sword, Shi Yan had an extremely earth-shaking aura as if he could kill anybody in this world. He looked like a god of slaughter hovering in the sea of blood. Chapter 1033. I can deal with him. Chapter 1033. I can deal with him. Du Lin's hand tightened around the Thunder God Spear, his green veins bulging. He had a strange white light flash in his eyes as he looked extremely stern. The Thunder God's spear whistled oddly as if someone was whining and wailing. Electric light dots sparked from the tip of the spear. Looking at it, people didn't know whether that divine weapon was excited or worried. Stooping, Du Lin's eyes pierced through the volcano mouth, gazing at the young man who immersed in the extreme wildness. He had finally identified the master of the blood shield. It was totally different from what he had imagined. After the first time he was defeated and had run away, he had thought a lot to confirm the information. However, he assumed that the master of that giant blood shield should have incipient God Realm cultivation base, or his cultivation base at peak of ethereal God Realm, at least. However, it was evident that the young man down there had just crossed the threshold of incipient God Realm. He hadn't even solved the challenge of having the ethereal extent yet. However, that man had parried his thunder attack twice. And he was just at third sky of original God Realm the first time he defeated him. Du Lin suddenly felt dispirited, a feeling that he shouldn't have at this moment. He was the new hope of the Crocs this generation. He was the captain of the Mad Shark Fleet. He was still young, but he had reached peak of ethereal God Realm. With the elite force of the Ghost Mark clan and the Thunder God Spear, Agate Star area was vast, but it didn't have many people who could be his rivals in his eyes. Today, watching the young man down there, Du Lin put on a complicated face. He suddenly knew that his achievement wasn't at the top of this universe when he had encountered a man who had suppressed him twice with a lower realm. The first time, that man had even made him helter-skelter run away, and Du Lin now had an unrecognizable evil barrier in his soul. He suddenly sent power to the hand that was holding the Thunder God Spear. Dazzling lightning strikes projected from his fingers curled around the spear. The spear also had some harsh explosions. Waiting by Du Lin were thousands of Ghost Mark warriors, standing by for his order with fierce countenances. They were accumulating energy, ready to strike. You've broken through to the new realm? Inside the extinct volcano, Xia Xian Yan's eyes sparkled as she was happy. She couldn't help but scream. Xia Xian Yan's gentle scream had awakened Fu Wei, the one who was still confused. She looked at Shi Yin and was shaken. Her charming face revealed her sudden and disbelieving joy. Fu Wei knew before this battle, Shi Yin had had only third sky of original God realm. However, after just 1 hour, right in the battle site of a fierce fight, he had advanced. He had broken through in such a dangerous situation. What kind of talents and foundation did he have? Light in Fu Wei's blue eyes rippled strangely. She couldn't control the vibe in her mind as she was discreetly excited. Yeah, I've just advanced to the new realm, replied Shi Yin, his garnet eyes showing his eternal fighting will. He didn't look at the two women. His bloody gaze was fixed on Du Lin. Are you all right? Xia Xian Yin smiled, shaking her head. I'm fine. Although Du Lin has tried to use his sharp divine weapon, he couldn't actually hurt me. Don't worry, if we have to fight to the death, I think I'm not weaker than him. Xia Xian Yin looked arrogant. She had been fighting for 100 years in Shadow Ghostly Prison. She got used to fighting decisive battles. She had no fear of any kind of challenge. This situation couldn't give her much of a threat. Du Lin, I can deal with him, Shi Yin suddenly whispered. Xia Xian Yin and Fu Wei stiffened their faces. Warriors of Potion and Tool Pavilion and Windstorm War Department looked shocked. They had gleams of unrecognizable joy. Many people were confused. They had doubts. No kidding? Xia Xian Yin was baffled. She reacted shortly, frowning and whispering, Du Lin is at peak of Ethereal God Realm. You've just broken through to Ethereal God Realm. Was it strenuous for you to parry his previous attack? Fu Wei shook her head, her face odd. He had just reached Ethereal God Realm and he hadn't formed the Ethereal Extent yet. Now, he dared to talk arrogantly. Even though Fu Wei highly evaluated him, she didn't really believe him. Kidding? Shi Yin said, his voice calm and husky. I won't kid in any battle. Shortly after he had finished, a blood light column soared up. The red light was like viscous blood with a thick, gross smell and death's energy fluctuation. It shot up right into the sky. Boom! A flow of earth-shaking energy erupted from Shi Yan's god body. The tide of energy twirled like a tornado, destroying the world. Nearby Potion and Tool Pavilion's warriors were rolling up with that tornado. At the mouth of the extinct volcano, Du Lin held the Thunder God's spear in his hand, his eyes focused and his mouth cold and harsh. The Thunder God's spear in his hand turned into an electric dragon, which looked like it was formed by billions of lightning strikes. It was ready to resist that blood light column. Boom, 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 boom. The canal that led to inside the extinct mountain had to bear a formidable attack, as if someone wanted to eliminate it. The green stone wall sounded like exploding popcorn. Flames sparked as if they were the results of the energy impact. The blood-red light shot up into the sky. At the mountain's mouth, it turned into billions of blood-silky threads, tying the electric dragon. Lightning strikes and red light beams weaved in the sky. The narrow space of the mountain's mouth seemed to turn into a dazzlingly brilliant sea of light. The power of the energy attack had almost exploded the volcano. Shi Yin suddenly rose his hand with the shield. The blood mark on the shield bloomed like a flower, which then stopped all the energy sparks from falling. The sword in his other hand had garnet eyes opened. A brutal, sinister aura filled the whole place. Negative emotions included fear, desperation, bloodthirstiness, and extreme evil expanded like a seething sea, giving the blood threads above his heads more evil power. Shi Yin was standing on the ground inside the volcano, while Du Lin was hovering above the mountain's mouth. The volcano canal had billions of electric beams and sparks of flames. The sprinkle of energy light dots and flames was stopped by the massive blood shield. None of the warriors of Potion and Tool Pavilion or Windstorm was harmed. However, the energy sparks sent up into the sky had attacked many Ghost Mark warriors. They instinctively dodged them. In the dazzling energy attack, they couldn't see Shi Yin and Du Lin anymore as the light dots had blinded them. Their eyes now reflected a whole world of light that made them unable to recognize the real world. Slowly, the energy fluctuation calmed down. The light dots inside the stone canal all disappeared. The real world emerged again. Shi Yin breathed heavily, his eyes garnet. The clothes on his body were shattered, revealing his lean muscles like rocks. His muscles' robust energy could be compared to the intensity of the great warriors of the Monster Clan or Demon Clan. This kind of torrential, flooding energy in his flesh had shaken people's souls. Many female warriors of Potion and Tool Pavilion in the Windstorm watched him with big admiration and hard eyes. They didn't even blink as their eyes lingered on the hard contours of his body. These kinds of perfect lines and explosive energy could stir up hidden desire from the bottom of those girls' hearts. Such beautiful outlines made them sink in affection. Electric flashes crept over the sky. Du Lin gathered thunderbolts in both of his hands, his face dark and cold. However, he couldn't hold it, shaking lightly. Warriors of the Ghost Mark clan looked fearful as they watched him disbelievingly. In this tough energy encounter, their leader hadn't gained the upper hand. This was beyond their common knowledge. A third sky of Ethereal God Realm expert couldn't suppress a warrior who had just entered Ethereal God Realm in energy fighting. What was going on? The rock canal exploded, creating dense cracks. Flames sparked, drawing lines in the rock wall. Two warriors, one in the sky and one on the ground, were watching each other. They held a deadly silence. After a while, Du Lin took a deep breath, his face strangely stern. Suddenly, he shouted, "Who are you?" "Nobody," Shi Yin grinned, his face bloodthirsty. The blood sword in his hand turned into a blood column, drilling into the sky. The moment the blood sword emerged from the mountain, people saw red eyes on the sword blinking and disappearing. In the next moment, images of ancient demogorgons flew out of the blood broadsword. They started to assault and massacre the Ghost Mark warriors. Those demogorgons represented the negative emotions that included savagery, despair, resentment, fear, and bloodthirstiness. They came to this world like evil spirits. When they cried and began to hunt the Ghost Mark warriors, those warriors had lost their minds, as if they had fallen into a fantasy world of the demogorgons. The negative desires hiding deep in their hearts were driven, sinking them into an extremely negative sea. While resisting the demogorgons, their wills collapsed gradually. The bloody shadows turned to ruthless and evil ancient demogorgons. The negative emotions of the big races in this universe congregated as if an extremely evil creature was about to be born. They didn't have a tangible body. However, their thoughts contained the evil energy. The demogorgon jumped into the bodies and the souls of the Ghost Mark warriors, landing in their sea of consciousnesses and stirring them up. Once the ancient demogorgon got rid of their souls, the Ghost Mark warriors' vitality was cut off, becoming a cold corpse. The ancient demogorgons that came from the broadsword were actually the blood eyes. The broadsword was like the most sinister and sharp weapon in this world, which made of negative emotions. Warriors of Potion and Tool Pavilion in the Windstorm faced up at the sky. They felt shockingly amazed when they eyed the young man with the blood shield. They were so excited. Many women gasped and screamed. Their beautiful eyes showed their passionate admiration. They hated they couldn't jump into Shi Yan's lap and offer him their bodies to show their appreciation. There were ethereal god realm experts among this group, and they didn't know why their sexual desire was so stirred up that they couldn't resist. Strange light rippled in Fu Wei's blue eyes. She didn't take her eyes away from him even for a blink of an eye. Her full lips thinned as her emotions surged like turbulent water. She had some vibes and she couldn't help it. At this moment, Shi Yan's clothes were just rags and his torso was naked. He had an unknown, deadly charisma to members of the opposite sex, making him a black hole that attracting everything. He was swallowing their love and lustful desires like a flame that consumed the moths. Xia Xian Yan's brows stretched. She smiled tenderly as she was naturally proud. That was my man. He belongs with me. Only me. She couldn't help but nod inwardly. Her dimples appeared like flowers. The lake of her inner world now had the deepest carvings that would never fade or vanish. Chapter 1034. A Delighted Fight. Chapter 1034. A Delighted Fight. The Lake in Lifestar Number 9. The battleships of the Dark Shadow clan hovered quietly by the horizon. Leader Cocker had an earthy yellow ethereal extent above his head which had continuous ranges of imposing mountains. Cocker frowned. He placed his hand on his forehead, mobilizing his power Upanishad. Rumble, rumble. The mountain ranges on the surface of the planet shook terrifyingly. Under Cocker's earth power Upanishad, mountains started to grow from the ground. Then, they flew up. From hundreds of miles away, the imposing mountains fell grumblingly on the crystal-clear lake. The lake bubbled and glistened. The lake turned into a mirror with the subtle power of space. The mountains grumblingly descended, quietly disappearing into the lake. However, they couldn't make a ripple. Cocker knitted his brows tightly. He was pissed off. He cursed. Those who use space power Upanishad are so annoying. He continued to revolve his soul altar. The mountain ranges in his ethereal extent started to shake. At the same time, the earth ground of life star number 9 also sounded and shook continually. From a further distance, 3 more 1,000-meter-tall mountains flew over. When they reached the lake, they exploded and turned into a shower of rocks, falling dangerously into the lake. The space power Upanishad changed again. The surface of the lake now had many dim and deep space slits which could have contained anything. The thick rain of rocks was swallowed into the chaotic current of a space basin, leaving no single chip. However, while the space slits twisted and changed, it did have some unrecognizable pauses, and those thick space slits couldn't close as fast as it did previously. Cocker suddenly smiled. He sounded happy. Space power Upanishad is subtly magical, indeed. Too bad you have only peak of ethereal god realm cultivation base. Your excellence allows you to endure for such a long time. Under the water surface, many types of battleship were lining up in the main hall of Potion and Tool Pavilion. Jaduo, the 10th elder of Potion and Tool Pavilion, was standing on a battleship. His face paled, his body shaking. He even had some bleeding cuts on his face. He looked helter-skelter. He had resisted strenuously like this for quite a long time. However, just like what Cocker had said, he had only the peak of ethereal god realm cultivation base. With the space slits that led to outer space, he had resisted several waves of attack by Cocker. Although his space power was mysteriously mighty, he couldn't endure the pounding, imposing mountains forever. His face twitched. A deep cut appeared at his glabella that allowed people to vaguely see his brain through it. It was the sign of his overusing space energy. If it continued this, he couldn't stand for a long time. The space slit would tear his brain. His god body would be killed. The difference between incipient god realm and ethereal god realm was like the distance between the sky and earth. Although his power Upanishad was refined, their power was 100,000 miles different. He couldn't resist Cocker for a long time. This situation was also in his estimation. Jaduo sighed, lifting his head to watch the fantasy mirror next to him. He used one finger to touch it. The mirror changed. First, it showed Bettina and the commotion there. It was also an extinct volcano canal. Bettina looked grim. Her sharp and bright eyes scanned through the mouth of the mountain to see Feng Yin and Hammer, the current chief of the Ghost Mark clan, entangling each other like 2 revolving light balls. Beautifully exquisite light patterns emerged in that twisted area. Feng Yin was also at incipient god realm. Since their realms weren't very different, it wasn't very strenuous for her to fight against Hammer. Jaduo took in that glimpse. He sighed and touched the mirror fantasy again. This time, it was with a more ponderous mood. He wanted to check Fu Wei. There were only 3 entrances leading to the underground area. He guarded one, Bettina took care of one, and the Windstorm War Department defended the last one. As soon as one of these 3 entrances was broken, their enemies would flood in violently. At that time, the most brutal fight would take place. He knew the force that the enemy had invested in this battle. 2 incipient God Realm experts, dozens of ethereal God Realm experts, more than 300 original God Realm experts, and several thousand King God Realm warriors. Once the enemy barged into this subterranean base, he knew it would be fatal to the force of Potion and Tool Pavilion and the Windstorm War Department. They couldn't resist the 2 incipient God Realm experts, while the ethereal God Realm experts of the enemy had outnumbered them. Their defeat seemed destined for them right at the beginning of this bloody melody. Jaduo was in a heavy mood. Looking at the fantasy mirror, he was shocked, his eyes disbelieving. Almost at the same time, Bettina seemed to have some premonition. She also checked the fantasy mirror on her side. Shortly after, she was perplexed. She shouted, "Impossible." The 2 different fantasy mirrors projected the same situation. In the mirror, Shi Yin looked like a demogorgon had possessed his body. He stood in the stone canal holding the blood shield, his face wild and bloodthirsty. His body shot up the murderous aura into the sky. He was urging his energy. At the entrance to the mountain, the ancient demogorgons were hissing and screaming while slaughtering everywhere. They were killing the ghost mark warriors fast and ruthlessly. Du Lin's eyes were icy cold. The thunder god's spear in his hand continually released earth-shaking thunderbolts, striking the stone tunnel. Inside the canal, Shi Yin held the shield, lifting his head and laughing evilly. The blood shield was ever-changing. It seemed to be able to gather all the evil things of this world as it dissolved all of Du Lin's attacks. During this process, the ghost mark warriors were still being slaughtered by the ancient demogorgons. Their pathetic screeching was unceasing. In Jaduo's and Bettina's eyes was the strange light of disbelief. They were looking at the 2 different fantasy mirrors, but they were watching the same scene. They became terrified. They recognized Du Lin. The new generation's outstanding warrior of the Croc family of the Ghost Mark clan who was holding the divine weapon Thunder God Spear was the elite warrior that was well known in the entire Agate Star area. He was the future chief of the Ghost Mark clan. Zhuolu favored him very much. However, such an earth-shaking character couldn't suppress Shi Yin using his aura. He even suffered from the Shi Yan's evil deeds. He had hurt his own fellows. Jaduo and Bettina were baffled. All of a sudden, they got themselves together. The blood shield. That blood shield. The 2 of them were utterly shocked. They immediately recalled what Fu Wei had asked them to search. They knew that this shield had saved Fu Wei. It was the thing that had forced Du Lin to retreat. That shield was in Shi Yan's hand now. Jaduo and Bettina suddenly felt bitter. Looking at the demon man who was so fierce in the mirror, they knew for the first time that they were wrong. Completely wrong. They used to disdain Shi Yin as they thought that his realm was too low that it wasn't worth mentioning. They thought that he wasn't a good match for Fu Wei and that he was just a pervert who dared to harass Xia Xinyan. He was just a jerk in a good shell. But now, Shi Yan's performance was like a hard slap on their faces, making their cheeks burning hot. It was a shame that they didn't have any guts to see people. Above the lake, Cocker suddenly furrowed his brows. He suddenly had a strange feeling as his eyes seemed to be able to look through the layers to reach Du Lin's. Du Lin has a strenuous battle. The Ghost Mark warriors were killed by the ancient Demogorgon as if they were the silkworms devouring mulberry leaves. Everything appeared in his eyes as if he was actually there, joining the battle. Cocker didn't have any feelings for the Ghost Mark clan. Seeing the Ghost Mark warriors being slaughtered, he was just a little bit curious. He was curious why Du Lin had fallen in such a helter-skelter situation. And more than that, he was curious about who could back Du Lin into the corner like that. His line of sight switched to the illusions of the demogorgons. He frowned, using his soul to feel. After a while, Cocker seemed to remember something. A significant fear arose from deep in his eyes. He couldn't hold it. His body shook, and he couldn't even talk. It looked like he was reacting to something really formidable. Something had shocked this first sky of incipient god realm, one of the leaders of the Dark Shadow clan, very much. Why? Why is it here? How could it be? Cocker looked like his soul had gone. He mumbled as if he had forgotten his mission in this operation. Abruptly, he left this entrance and dashed towards Du Lin. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. More electric beams bloomed on the massive blood shield. The electric flames sparked furiously, but the shield remained as if it was the toughest barrier in this world. Shi Yan's spirit, soul, and chi had reached the peak. Demon blood was burning inside him. The muscles of his entire body were like erupting volcanoes, gushing wild and powerful energy. God power rolled torrentially and unceasingly in his body. The acupuncture points of his entire body released negative energy. Energy from his nebula in his abdomen also gathered with the negative energy, the God power in his body, and his star energy. All burst out, bringing up the aura and energy of his when he had broken through to ethereal God realm. At this moment, his power had reached the summit of his life. In this third sky of rampage, he was cold and indifferent. He had only thoughts of brutal and straightforward killing. He would do whatever to release his deadly energy. He had used all of his lurking skills for the first time. It was also the first time he knew to what level of mightiness he could reach when releasing all kinds of energy at once. It was not a challenge of skipping one level. He had actually leaped 2 levels. He had used his power at first sky of ethereal god realm, which he had just entered recently, to resist a third sky of ethereal god realm warrior's attack. However, he hadn't fallen into a lower hand situation yet. This fighting desire filled his body, which was full of energy. If he couldn't release this annoying feeling, he would eventually get very irritated. He hated that he couldn't shout at the sky to compete with earth and heaven. Shi Yan, we shouldn't linger here. They have 2 incipient god realm experts. When the situation is favorable, we should stop. Suddenly, Xia Xian Yin muttered to him. She didn't bother that Fu Wei was grimacing. She said naturally faintly, Du Lin's troops have the weakest defense. It shouldn't be a problem for us to force a way out of here. You guys. Fu Wei paled, fumbling and screaming. However, she didn't know which excuse she could use to make them stay. Jaduo and Bettina weren't close to Shi Yan. He had no relationship with Potion and Tool Pavilion. He didn't have any responsibility that would make him risk his life for Potion and Tool Pavilion. The reason why he had stayed, even though he was aware of danger, wasn't that of Potion and Tool Pavilion. He stayed here for Xia Xian Yin. Fu Wei understood it clearly. Seeing Shi Yan transforming into an incredible demogorgon as if he was possessed, Fu Wei was joyful as if she had seen the dawn of hope. However, Xia Xian Yin told him to leave. It was a heavy punch to her heart. She felt a strong pressure that suffocated her. We're not hurried. Shi Yan shook his head when Fu Wei felt so desperate and helpless. His eyes were still blood red. I haven't released my brimming energy yet. To avoid the backfire, I should stay for a while to kill more, which would ease my condition. Shi Yan's madly arrogant statement of killing was like God's words in Fu Wei's ears. It was like a mysterious but powerful fountain that gave a tonic to her soul, calming it down. Chapter 1035. The Perfect Shape. Chapter 1035. The Perfect Shape _ The illusions of the big ancient demogorgons were still invading the bodies and the souls of the ghost mark warriors. Those ancient demogorgons were developed from the eyes of the blood sword. They seemed to have an extremely evil power. Once they killed a ghost mark warrior, they absorbed all the negative emotions before the warrior died, which boosted up the demogorgons. The extinct volcano's mouth was filled with essence chi of the dead. They rolled into energy streams, congregating in Shi Yan's body. The acupuncture points in his entire body were brimming. He had a feeling that he wouldn't feel comfortable if he couldn't vent this energy out. He seemed to have an endless source of energy. If he didn't release it, His realm would be stuck and he would receive a backlash. A shout reached the sky. Shi Yin, who was hiding underground, couldn't suppress his wild desire of slaughtering anymore. He stormed up into the sky, appearing right where the Ghost Mark warriors were gathered. Warriors of Potion and Tool Pavilion in the Windstorm War Department were shocked, but they were more joyful than upset. Fu Wei's soft body shivered. Her maiden heart was filled with excitement. She looked at Shi Yin soaring. Her beautiful eyes were so mesmerizing. Xia Xian Yin frowned. She smiled reluctantly and spoke to her subordinates. "Get up there." The battleship sounded deafening. As ordered, they stormed out of the stone-paved road. They didn't hide underground anymore. Each of them soared up into the sky, appearing on the surface of this planet. Fu Wei was baffled for a while. She thought quickly and ordered her warriors, "Get up there." Apparently, the situation here and the other two entrances were completely different. Du Lin at third sky of ethereal god realm couldn't enter the ground. On the other hand, after Shi Yin had burst off his energy, his side seemed to take the upper hand. Everybody knew what kind of advantage they could get when they pursued a retreating enemy. Fu Wei didn't want to hide anymore. She prepared to create the biggest loss to Du Lin in the shortest time. Warriors of the Windstorm and Potion and Tool Pavilion rocketed to the mouth of the extinct volcano. They immediately joined the battle against the Ghost Mark warriors. Holding the shield, Shi Yin had an imposing aura that he had never had before. He fought Du Lin alone. Slowly, he controlled his marvelous power to draw blood from the corpses floating around to create a viscous blood soul sea. The beautiful Red Sea seemed to have its own consciousness as it aimed at the Ghost Mark warriors exclusively. Each of the Ghost Mark warriors dragged into the Blood Soul Sea would lose his mind. Instinctively, they would attack their buddies. His powers Upanishad switched. The shiny space blades curved around Du Lin, dragging a tail of brilliant light. Shi Yin smiled wildly. Tens of thousands of starlight dots congregated, creating starlight chains, which swept across the sky and tied up Du Lin. The more he fought, the stronger Shi Yin became. Du Lin at peak of ethereal god realm became helter-skelter in resisting Shi Yin's changing, powerful attacks. He seemed to be losing. The bloody broadsword had disappeared, leaving only the flying ancient demogorgons, which were slaughtering the Ghost Mark clansmen. Due to Shi Yin, the unidentified factor, the warriors of Potion and Tool Pavilion and Windstorm War Department stirred up. They were boosted, which helped them suppress the invaders easily. The more Ghost Mark clansmen were massacred, the more essence chi of the dead gathered. Shi Yin's body enlarged. His huge body looked more imposing and intimidating with the extreme energy twirling around him. As the Ghost Mark warriors died, Shi Yin's fighting competence increased unceasingly after he had absorbed more essence chi of the dead. His energy seemed to not have an upper limit. Gradually, Shi Yin's god body couldn't endure it anymore. His skin and flesh cracked. However, the immortal demon blood wasn't sent out. Each drop of demon blood lingered, sticking on his body like crystal blood. At this moment, he looked like a man made of blood. Vast starry sky, shoreless sea of star, endless star power. Shi Yin made some magical hand seals as if he could connect to the high sky. Dim stars suddenly emerged in the dark sky. Starlight twinkled like fireflies. They slowly enlarged, shining beautifully. Billions of starlight dots fell from the dark, mysterious starry sky. They sprinkled heavily onto the planet as if Shi Yin could control them all. He seemed to hover in the brilliant galaxy and become the owner of the stars who could refine the starlight into whips that attacked Du Lin. Du Lin's ethereal extent was like a fountain of lightning and thunder. It contained thousands of thunderbolts weaving in the unceasing thunderclaps. Lightning strikes flew out of the ethereal extent like dragons. They engaged, entangling with the starlight in the sky and hitting the space blades. They were facing evil willpower. Du Lin's power was consumed rapidly. His god body slowly got numb and exhausted. Shi Yin was at the opposite state. He was like a perfect war machine that never experienced tiredness. His energy didn't decrease, but instead rocketed steadily to infinity. Du Lin suddenly felt a chill in his heart. To this man who had stormed out all of a sudden, he had a feeling of being defeated. He had no mean or power to smash this man. Talking about divine weapons, Du Lin's Thunder God Spear couldn't break the blood shield. Talking about energy, he couldn't oppress the other. But as for the realm difference, his realm was higher than Shi Yan's. However, his enemy had 3 different powers of space, death, and life, and star that could make up for his inadequate realm. This combined energy was enough to resist Du Lin. His unique advantages couldn't defeat Shi Yan in any aspects, which gave him a big headache. Seeing that the members that the Crocs had specially trained were dying nearby, Du Lin felt his heart bleeding. He thought it was the biggest mistake he had ever made in his entire life to voluntarily accept this mission. When the Ghost Mark clan was at a disadvantage, a figure slowly appeared. It was a ferocious dark shadow man. His eyes were so cold and harsh. He didn't look at the Ghost Mark clansmen being killed, or even at Du Lin, Fu Wei, and Xiaoxian Yin. His eyes switched between the illusions of the ancient demogorgons as if he wanted to identify something. He was shocked when he saw Shi Yan holding the blood shield. His line of sight didn't move anymore. He mumbled something and then suddenly took action. 10 imposing mountains in the sky flew out as if someone had forcefully plucked them out with endless intimidation. The mountains were like heavenly drill bits grumblingly pressing on Shi Yan's head. It was the threatening pressure of incipient God realm experts covering the entire sky. People at lower realms couldn't help but gush out blood. They helter-skelter fell from the sky. The power in their bodies disordered, giving them hopeless distress. They even wanted to kneel down to worship. At incipient God realm, the warriors understood the nature of powers and primary rules of powers Upanishads as if they could blend the earth and sky together. Those mountains were sharp weapons in his hands, which were able to break anything. Under such grumbling pressure, the warriors of the Ghost Mark clan, Potion and Tool Pavilion, and the Windstorm War Department were shaken, trying to get rid of the battle range. Everybody could see that the target of those mountains was only one person, Shi Yan. Xiaoxian Yin and Fu Wei couldn't help but shout. However, under such an earth-shaking threat, they didn't have the power to resist for even a short moment. Rumble, 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 rumble. The grand mountains fell like meteors. All hit Shi Yan. The ground cracked and collapsed inwardly into the ground. Shi Yan was pressed down, and people couldn't see his situation. This attack of an incipient God realm expert wasn't something that Du Lin's attack could compare to. In that glimpse, Shi Yan was pressed, but no one could see him. All the warriors engaging in this battle stopped and held their breath. They were baffled watching the expert of the Dark Shadow clan who had just come out from nowhere, their eyes cold. Xiaoxian Yin paled. She was so frightened. She stayed perplexed for a while before facing the sky and screaming. She was calling for something. From a place far from them, Feng Yin was battling with Hammer, chief of the Ghost Mark clan. She changed her eyes and didn't say anything before leaving Hammer and flying away. Xiaoxian Yin looked crazy. Her resentful eyes gazed at the Dark Shadow clan expert who had just appeared. Her succulent red lips parted as she panted, her eyes chilled to the bone. Fu Wei's soft body shivered, her blue eyes fixed on the pile of mountains. A bitter and sour pain multiplied in her heart. At this moment, she suddenly recognized that Shi Yan had occupied a spot in her heart when she hadn't known. She couldn't recognize it previously, but now it became crystal clear. Boom! The mountains exploded. The blood shield reappeared. Inside the mist of crushed stones, a blood shadow soared up into the sky. His elbows, shoulders, and knees had savage sharp spikes. His chest, waist, and arms were covered with scales like armor. It looked harmonious with his god body, as if it was a shell generated by his energy. It was the perfect fighting shape with an explosive power accompanied by the warrior's blood-red eyes and sinister aura. Cocker of the Dark Shadow clan was startled for a while. He observed the feature of another race stinging his eyes. He muttered instinctively, "A clansman of the God clan." He paused for a while and then reacted, "No, it's not true. Not a member of the God clan. It's the immortal demon clan." "Sure, Shi Yan?" Xia Xian Yan's beautiful eyes were disbelieving. She was baffled as she looked at the young man in his new skin. Although his body changed, his aura belonged to Shi Yan. As Fu Wei knew Shi Yan's relationship with Blood Devil, at first glance, she could react timely. Her bitter feeling was swept away instantly. Shi Yan stood upright in the sky. He gasped for his breath. Although his god body was bleeding, the ruby demon blood didn't fall off his body. Once a drop oozed out, it would solidify, stick on his skin, and create a hard shell to cover his entire body. Shi Yan's god body was damaged severely. His internal organs seemed displaced. Some vessels were broken together with some of his bones. Evidently, his situation wasn't good. He was hurt badly. However, he was from the Immortal Demon Clan, one of the clans with the toughest bodies in this world. He had just mobilized the peak power of his life, forcefully resisting Cocker's attack. Anyway, he wasn't killed. Standing there, Shi Yan could feel the mysterious energy gushing out of his acupuncture points. His body was healed as the god power boosted him further. He felt like his fighting capacity increased significantly. Looking at Cocker of the Dark Shadow Clan at incipient God Realm, Shi Yan didn't know why he was calm. And at the same time, he had an endless fighting will. Chapter 1036, The Bloody Massacre. Chapter 1036, The Bloody Massacre _ Cocker of the Dark Shadow Clan grimaced. His piercing, brutal eyes gazed at Shi Yan with obvious murderous intention. He had never thought that he couldn't kill Shi Yan with his attacks. Yet Shi Yan was able to receive his attack and then reappear with a new form. It was an insult to an incipient God Realm warrior. Cocker didn't say anything. He just snorted and changed his ethereal extent. The floating mountains inside his ethereal extent condensed into 3 massive, earthy yellow beasts with the impressive power of earth. Shortly after, they got rid of the constraint of the ethereal extent, storming towards Shi Yan with their inaudible screams. The 3 massive beasts were several thousand meters tall. They looked savage as they belonged to some kind of monster that had never existed in Agate Star area. The 3 earth-shaking forces aimed at Shi Yan's soul, covering his god body instantaneously. Nobody could see Shi Yan anymore. They could only see a turbulent, earthy yellow world. Vaguely, the beasts were moving around like shaking mountains. Shi Yan's valiant roar was unceasing. Suddenly, Shi Yan's roar stopped. He reappeared between the 3 strange beasts in Cocker's ethereal extent. He had wounds all over his body. Bones of his skeleton cracked. His face was covered with blood. As his opponent was at incipient God Realm, his total power couldn't resist. However, at the moment when he felt like he was falling into a bottomless abyss, he saw something strange. In the next moment, he felt negative energy in his acupuncture points. His god power, the immortal demon blood, and star power seemed to have a way to all be unleashed. They burst out at the same time, congregating at the illusions of the ancient Demogorgon. In the void, dozens of illusions of the ancient Demogorgons slowly changed. They quickly merged together. An incomparable aura that could extinguish everything generated little by little. The illusions of the ancient Demogorgon merged into one body. In 3 seconds, it absorbed all of Shi Yan's energy and turned into one entity. Then, it changed again and became a several hundred meters tall Demogorgon. The phantom of the ancient Demogorgon was like a reflection in the water. It wasn't so clear, but the pair of red eyes were like 2 bleeding suns, and the blood mark on its forehead was very eye-catching. Right when the phantom of the Demogorgon appeared in Life Star number 9, Shi Yan was shocked. He lifted his head and looked at the vast void. Layers of barriers that blocked Life Star number 9 became stable in just a blink of an eye. The broken space nodes, which were destroyed before, were restored at that moment. A flow of sinister, cold aura with the willpower of the devil came from an unknown area of this universe, pouring into that mountain-like body of the ancient Demogorgon. At that moment, the ancient Demogorgon had a world-shattering power, as if it was the fountain of everything in earth and heaven. It had even shaken Life Star number 9. All the warriors at incipient God Realm in the Shadow Ghostly Prison were shaken. Yin lifted his head to look at the giant ancient Demogorgon. He suddenly had a feeling that the phantom of Demogorgon seemed to have a life. And at this moment, Yin had no bit of energy left in his body. While the ancient Demogorgons were combining, they had drawn all of his energy as if it was to wake up some evil creature from a deep pitch in this universe, which then entered the body of the ancient Demogorgon. At the moment the ancient Demogorgon appeared in the void, a pair of massive hands like an iron anchor suddenly grabbed the void. The three strange beasts flying out of Cocker's ethereal extent were blown off, sending waves of earthy yellow halos and turning into nothingness. The ancient Demogorgon stooped and sucked. The warriors of the Ghostmark clan, Potion and Tool Pavilion, and Windstorm War Department had their lives taken away. They became dead corpses in just a blink of an eye without a single beam of life energy left. Besides Xia Xianyin and Fu Wei who gathered to protect Yin, all creatures' life energy was absorbed in that glimpse of time. They died tragically afterward, including Du Lin of the Croc family and several thousand warriors of the Ghostmark clan, Potion and Tool Pavilion, and the Windstorm War Department. In that short moment, thousands of people died. They didn't have any bit of energy left. Cocker, the leader of the Dark Shadow clan, shivered. He had a significant fear in his eyes. He shouted as if he had encountered ghosts. Impossible! You were dead? He screamed as if he had mental problems. His soul altar flew away from his skull immediately as he was trying his best to escape. However, the ancient Demogorgon that looked like a grand mountain extended both of its massive hands, squeezing Crocker's soul altar and ethereal extent respectively. Crack! Crack! Cocker's ethereal extent and soul altar were smashed, becoming countless beams of strange light and vanishing in earth and heaven. Cocker at incipient God realm had no way to resist that ancient Demogorgon. He was killed instantly. The ancient Demogorgon floated in the air. His line of sight seemed able to cross layers of distances. He extended one arm, reaching for the place where the battleships of the Dark Shadow clan were anchored. His arm just deliberately swirled and all the battleships above the lake exploded like the most beautiful fireworks. All the members of the Dark Shadow clan were massacred. After he was done with all of these, the two blood eyes of the ancient Demogorgon observed Yin underneath. He gazed at Yin and opened his mouth to say something inaudible. The incredible aura disappeared shortly after. The ancient Demogorgon faded little by little. The will that came to this phantom from a deep place in the universe left when it vanished. However, that thought arose in Yin's brain as only he could listen to the Demogorgon clearly. The Dark Shadow clan can guess your identity. Before you've reached incipient God realm, don't let yourself be exposed. Do your best. I came here through the infinite space. I can't stay for a long time. I can only do that for you. I'm trying to help the ring spirit gather the last piece of its memory. After it has merged all its memories, you can know what mission you have to shoulder. As the ancient Demogorgon's consciousness left, the phantom disappeared. Flash. The blood broadsword reappeared, falling by Yin. Kong. Kong. The blood sword landed by his feet. The garnet eyes were still open on the sword. Corpses were scattered around. Some floated in the void. Some lay on the ground. They had the same death. Their lives were taken away. Suddenly, a flow of dead chi seethed violently, which was much stronger than the raging sea. It poured from the sky and entered Yin's acupuncture points. It was the power of Cocker from the Dark Shadow clan after he was killed. It was the power of an incipient God realm expert. At this moment, Yin's energy, which had all been used up, was refilled sharply. He couldn't endure such a heavy flow, his body shivering. Standing next to him were the two women who were now looking at him as if they were looking at a ghost or a monster. Several thousand warriors of the Windstorm War Department, Potion and Tool Pavilion, and the Ghostmark clan were now just dead bodies. Du Lin was dead. The Thunder God Spear of the Ghostmark clan turned into a lightning strike and flew towards Hammer's general direction. Standing in between the corpses on the ground were three living people, one man and two women. Yin sat quietly, his body shivering uncontrollably. He was taking in the essence chi of Cocker. At incipient God realm, The energy of that man was more than the total energy he had absorbed from the others before. His acupuncture points were swelling, and his negative feelings were arising. The space nodes were restored. The enemy's blockade to life star number 9 was lifted at this moment. This battle was strenuous. But after the ancient Demogorgon appeared, everything turned upside down. Incipient Godrealm Cocker of Dark Shadow Clan and many of his fellows were killed shortly after. The Mad Shark fleet of the Ghost Mark clan and its captain Du Lin were slaughtered. Now, it was only Hammer's force that remained. Bastard! Suddenly, Xia Xian Yin scolded. Looking at the dead bodies of her subordinates on the ground, she was so mad that it seemed like she could storm over and hit Shi Yin hard. My people are all dead. Fu Wei paled, looking at Shi Yin. She didn't know whether she should hit him or not. You also killed all the warriors of our potion and tool pavilion. What just happened? Xia Xian Yin and Fu Wei woke up from their deep fear. They couldn't help but shout as rage flooded their heads, their bodies shivering. Shi Yin tried to open his eyes. He pondered and then made a cut in the void. A space passage appeared. He looked at Fu Wei and Xia Xian Yin. We should leave first. Don't worry. The danger of life star number 9 is gone. There's something we should discuss in another place. I don't want the fourth person to know about this. Xia Xian Yin frowned and nodded. She didn't ask for a reason and just got into the space passage directly. Fu Wei gritted her teeth. She pondered for a while before sighing begrudgingly. Following Xia Xian Yin, she jumped into the passage. Sensing a flow of earth-shaking aura flying towards them fast, Shi Yin discolored. He hurried to jump into the space passage and got away. That space passage vanished quickly. After the three of them had left and the passage disappeared, Feng Yin descended all of a sudden. Her deep and archaic eyes showed an unbelievable fear. She was baffled as she looked at the terrible mess in front of her. Corpses of the Ghost Mark clan, potion and tool pavilion, and the Windstorm War Department were floating in the void and lying on the ground. There was no living aura. No one was alive. Feng Yin gawked. With her knowledge and cognition, she didn't know what had just happened here. She just stood like that for a long time before she remembered to use the Soundstone to contact Xia Xian Yin. However, when she activated the Soundstone, she didn't receive anything. Feng Yin grimaced. Jia Duo lifted his head to look at the lake. He sensed in silence before he became baffled. The dark shadow clansmen filling the sky above their head seemed to have disappeared into thin air and left no aura. Jaduo thought he might have had some problem. He frowned and tried again, his eyes twinkling strangely. After a while, Jaduo was hesitant when he made a space slit. Through the slit, he looked and gawked, his face frightened. Countless broken fragments of the battleships and dead bodies of the Dark Shadow clan floated above the lake. The entire area was filled with a heavy death aura. There was no single wave of life energy fluctuating. This situation was evilly strange. All the enemies were massacred, and Jaduo couldn't sense any beam of energy from the beginning to the end. He didn't hear the noise of a battle either. Jaduo felt the hair on his nape raising. He felt so cold. He was scared as if he saw a ghost in daylight, his scalp tingling. Chapter 1037. A Great Ruckus. Chapter 1037. A Great Ruckus unders her. The current chief of the Ghost Mark clan was full of metal on the surface of life star number 9. Seeing Feng Yin disappear, he thought Bettina's defense down there was just an empty shell that he could smash with only one strike. However, the moment he was about to take action, he saw an electric beam zooming over. It was a spear. Hammer was surprised. He couldn't help but frown, raising his hand to grab the Thunder God spear. He closed his eyes to feel. This Thunder God spear was the divine weapon of the Ghost Mark clan, which was kept by the Crocs for generations. If its master hadn't died, the Thunder God spear would never be able to escape its master's control. Although the spear was in his hand now, Hammer didn't feel happy at all. Frowning, Hammer sensed and extended his soul consciousness in two different directions of the planet. He grimaced so much that his eyes reflected a restless fear. Besides his place, he couldn't feel vital signals from Du Lin's and the Dark Shadow Clan force. Hammer discolored in fright. Fear crept, flooding his heart. He hesitated for seconds before he made up his mind. He shouted, "Retreat!" Elders of the Feng Du family around were surprised, and they looked at him confusedly. Feng Yin had gone. They could break Bettina's defense in any minute to fulfill Zhualu's order. At the critical moment when they had finally seen the dawn of victory, Hammer wanted to retreat. They couldn't accept it. "Run. Immediately!" Hammer growled. His eyes still had a great fear. The elders of the Feng Du family saw his grimace, and they recognized something. Then, they spread out his order. Battleships of the Feng Du family that had traveled thousands of miles to get here suddenly soared up into the sky. They left at max speed. Under the extinct volcano, Bettina felt unbelievable, her wrinkles twitching. At the moment Feng Yin left, she thought she had to die here. Without an incipient God Realm expert to support her while she had no special skills in fighting, she couldn't resist Hammer. All Potion and Tool Pavilion's warriors standing with her here would have been killed by Hammer and his Ghost Mark warriors. At the tensest, dangerous moment, Hammer and his Ghost Mark warriors withdrew. Bettina was stunned. Not long afterward, Zhaduo's voice came from the fantasy mirror hovering by her. He sounded terrified. "The Dark Shadow warriors in my area are all killed. No one is alive, including Leader Cocker." Bettina discolored in fright. "What happened?" I don't know." Zhaduo stammered, his face complicated. "There's no trace or sign of a battle. I didn't feel any energy fluctuating. The clansmen of the Dark Shadow clan seem to have been erased in just a blink of an eye. They are all dead." Bettina was shocked. She contemplated for a while before touching the fantasy mirror to watch Fu Wei's situation. Dead bodies hovered in the sky, lying on the ground. They were warriors from the Ghostmark clan, Potion and Tool Pavilion, and even the Windstorm War Department. Corpses lay everywhere. Mountains were collapsed. Besides Feng Yin, they didn't see anyone else alive. Bettina paled and looked at the images in the fantasy mirror. She kept silent for a while before talking to Zhaduo. Then, she flew at her max speed towards the area that the mirror had just shown. 15 minutes later, Bettina and Zhaduo appeared by Feng Yin. They were petrified as they looked at the bloody scene that was like hell in front of their eyes. Their lips trembled for a while before they were able to say, "What happened after all?" "I don't know." Feng Yin frowned, taking a deep breath. "Cocker, the first sky of incipient God Realm leader, has been buried here." She pointed at a floating corpse not far from them. That corpse was dried up as if it didn't have any drop of fluid remaining. It looked desperately pale with a deep fear on his face. He must have encountered something really terrible before his death. Otherwise, he wouldn't have such a horrible look on his face when he died. Bettina and Zhaduo looked at where her finger was pointing. They stared at the bizarre Dark Shadow corpse. They felt a chill rising in their bodies, their scalps tingling. An incipient God Realm expert was killed silently together with thousands of warriors from the Ghostmark clan, the Windstorm War Department, and Potion and Tool Pavilion. In addition to the members of the Dark Shadow clan from another place, the number of deaths would be more than 10,000, including the warriors at Original God Realm, King God Realm, Ethereal God Realm, and even Incipient God Realm. Who was so fiercely strong to do this? Who was this brutally bloodthirsty? Feng Yin, Bettina, and Zhaduo exchanged looks. They could see the fear in each other's face. They kept silent for a while. Long afterward, Bettina reacted and screamed, "Fu Wei's body isn't here." She was shaken, and she hurriedly took out the sound stone. She must know what happened. Wisps of thoughts entered the sound stone fiercely. Bettina's face became more grimaced. The sound stone didn't send any sound. Fu Wei didn't answer her. "Don't waste your efforts." Feng Yin furrowed her brows. "I've checked this place. There are 3 people who went missing. Xia Xian Yin, Fu Wei, and Shi Yin." After she found the strange situation of this area, her first reaction was to contact Xia Xian Yin. However, the same thing happened. Xia Xian Yin didn't answer her. Then, she carefully checked the battle site. She found no trace of Xia Xian Yin, Fu Wei, and Shi Yin. That kid, too. Bettina and Jaduo were surprised. Feng Yin didn't bother to look at the two of them. She faced up at the dark sky and the battleships of the Ghost Mark clan, turning into black dots disappearing. After a while, she said faintly, "An invincible expert had come here recently. He had used his thundering powers to slaughter people here. Then, he captured Xia Xianyin, Fu Wei, and Shi Yin. As he could kill Cocker in just a blink of an eye and create such a bloody scene, I'm afraid he's in existence at third sky of incipient god realm. Only this kind of person could do such a thing." Third sky of incipient god realm? Bettina and Jaduo trembled. Feng Yin nodded. Yeah, it should have been an expert at that level. Although Agate Star area was incredibly vast, people could count the number of third sky of incipient god realm experts using just one hand. Even though it has been 1,000 years, it didn't guarantee to have a warrior at such a level. And no one knew if that expert had some relationship with Potion and Tool Pavilion or the Windstorm War Department, or the reason why he came to create such a terrible massacre. But if he came for them, why had he also killed the warriors of Potion and Tool Pavilion and the Windstorm War Department? And if he didn't come here to help, why did he kill the Dark Shadow warriors? They had so many doubts. They observed around confused as they couldn't figure out the reasons. "We can't explain this commotion," Feng Yin sighed begrudgingly. "We can only know after we contact Xia Xianyin and Fu Wei. Through them, we would get the truth." Pausing for a while, Feng Yin said, "The Windstorm War Department suffers a big loss this time. The battleships we've sent here accounts for 1/3 of the total number of the Windstorm's force. It's a tremendous loss. I have to return to the Fighting League to report this to the hegemon." Bettina and Jaduo were stern. They felt embarrassed as they promised to make it up. "No, it's not related to you guys. I hope after we have some evidence that we can explain this to each other then." Feng Yin waved her hand, her face tired. She immediately got on a war chariot and flew into the immense sea of stars. Bettina and Jaduo looked at Feng Yin as she was leaving. Then, they began to connect the people who had a close connection to Potion and Tool Pavilion. They wanted to use their wide-range insiders to know what had happened. It was a magical space in shadow ghostly prison that was filled with light. That space seemed to be separated from the mundane world. Although it had no earth and heaven energy, it had many shooting meteors. On a floating asteroid stood groups of palaces in alien architecture. Inside a hazy dark hall were 3 green oil lamps. One of them was extinguished all of a sudden. One of the members of the Dark Shadow clan, sitting cross-legged in a corner of the hall, was startled. He immediately paled and shouted, "Master Cocker is dead. Master Cocker is gone." His voice echoed through the lightning-fast moving asteroid. The space next to him where light streamers were flickering exploded with space slits as countless butterfly war chariots barging in. They gathered quickly and densely like clouds of locusts. Those butterfly war chariots swayed between the space slits as fast as lightning. With various colors, they appeared like beautiful butterflies. Each war chariot carried the clansmen of the Dark Shadow clan with pale faces. A thin old man stood on a large war chariot with an appearance of a wailing ghost. His white, metallic gray hair swayed like sharp needles, releasing sharp energy. He had a chain decorated with skulls of different races on his waist. Those skulls hissed and hooted as if the malicious souls were still inside. The old Dark Shadow man rode the war chariot, landing directly on the asteroid, his face as cold as ice. This special meteorite was like a special battleship, which was still moving. Butterfly war chariots anchored. Many clansmen of the Dark Shadow clan were traveling back and forth. However, after he arrived, the Dark Shadow warriors who were crying quieted down and greeted him with great respect. "Master Kelda, who said my brother died?" The old man looked like a screeching ghost who held a dragon skull in his hand. The ghost flame fumed from the empty sockets of the skull together with the pathetic cry of the resentful souls. "The lamp represents Master Cocker's soul in the great hall which was extinguished," said a Dark Shadow warrior. He was trembling hard in fear. Kelda's eyes lost their focus. A flow of icy aura diffused from him uncontrollably. He rose one hand and grabbed into the void. A pale energy hand squeezed off the head of the warrior who had just answered him. The soul altar of that man whined, begging for his mercy. Where did my brother go? What mission has he taken? Kelda had his murderous aura shoot into the sky. His face twisted as if he was a demon from hell entering this mortal world. It was a cooperation with Potion and Tool Pavilion of Agate Star area. They came to kill the people in Life Star number 9 of Potion and Tool Pavilion. He contacted Zwalu directly. I don't know the details, cried the Dark Shadow Warrior. Our chief knows this. You can ask him for more details. Notify the chief. Tell him I'm going out for a while. Kelda took a deep breath and stepped into a space slit. Chapter 1038. The Shadow Ghostly Prison is Boiling. Chapter 1038. The Shadow Ghostly Prison is Boiling. What? Xian Yin is missing? The Windstorm War Department lost 1/3 of its members? Fighting League's headquarters in Shadow Ghostly Prison was situated on a blue life star. Inside the God of War temple in the center of the star, a handsome man was screaming angrily, his face pale with rage. Feng Yin wore a forced smile and just stooped her head without talking. What happened? Feng Han took a deep breath. He calmed down, but his eyes were still as sharp as blades. We went to Life Star number 9 of Potion and Tool Pavilion to discuss business. Feng Yin explained what she knew about the situation with her head held low. She didn't dare to miss any detail. Feng Han listened quietly. After a while, he said coldly, you said someone at Third Sky of Incipient God Realm poked his nose in it? If it wasn't a Third Sky of Incipient God Realm expert, Cocker of Dark Shadow Clan wouldn't have been killed instantly, and around 10,000 warriors wouldn't have died without screams, said Feng Yin bitterly. Cocker was truly dead, frowned Feng Han. I can confirm that. Not good. Cocker was Kelda's brother. In Dark Shadow Clan, Kelda has the second sky of Incipient God Realm cultivation base. He would go crazy for sure. Feng Han pondered for a while, and then sent an order, tell our warriors to be wary of the Dark Shadow members. Once they find something, they must report immediately. Kelda will go out from the hidden base of Dark Shadow Clan. He will raise a bloody storm this time. Feng Yin nodded continually. Announced to the commander of each department of Fighting League to search for Xian Yin, Fu Wei, and that man. What was his name again? Shi Yin. Yeah, and any information about Shi Yin. Tell them to rifle through every corner at once. If you meet people of Potion and Tool Pavilion, you must ask them. Keep a close connection with Bettina and Jaduo of Potion and Tool Pavilion to exchange information. Understood. Anything else? Feng Han frowned as he saw that Feng Yin didn't hurry to spread his order. He asked impatiently. Feng Yin hesitated for a while and then said, there's something? What's that? Lady Xian Yin and the kid called Shi Yin seemed to know each other before. He must have been one of her old friends. Old friend? What do you mean? They've known each other before they came to Shadow Ghostly Prison. Feng Han was surprised, but he wasn't bothered. Got it. You go and work on your mission. Feng Yin didn't explain the situation clearer because she wasn't sure what the relationship between Xian Yin and Shi Yin was. If she made a wrong guess, she would provoke Feng Han. If that happened, she didn't know what might happen to her. Eventually, she didn't tell him about her assumption. She just nodded and left. On a moving star, the current chief of the Ghost Mark clan Hammer took out the Thunder God spear, his face bitter and sorrowful. He explained what happened to Great Elder of Potion and Tool Pavilion, Zwalu. Zwalu frowned, listening to him. He didn't intervene even once. After Hammer had finished, Zwalu said sadly, his eyes red, I didn't take care of Du Lin well enough. I had promised his seniors that I would take care of him and nurture him. I had never thought that. Sigh. Cocker was dead too, reminded Hammer in a low voice. Zwalu looked tired. He didn't bother to turn and just pulled his hair. When Du Lin attacked Fu Wei for the first time, a blood shield appeared. I wonder if it is related to that spear. Is it true that the expert who cultivates death and despair powers Upanishad has come again? Hammer didn't know the situation, so he just lowered his head without talking. Cocker died. His brother Kelda will come soon. We're going to give the Dark Shadow Clan an explanation. Also to do Lin. Zwalu's eyes got colder as he said resolutely, "Send out all the forces of Ghostmark Clan to search for those 3 juniors. I will ask the Satellite Eye to gather the forces in Shadow Ghostly Prison. We must know what had happened back there." Hummer nodded, his vision shifting to the Thunder God Spear. "You will keep the God's Spear for now." Zwalu couldn't help but snort, waving his hand. "Go. I want to prepare." This time, I'm afraid that the Shadow Ghostly Prison will change greatly. Hammer moved immediately. By the edge of the Dark Shadow Ghostly Prison, a group of almost 1,000 battleships was running. Those battleships with splendid flags and banners belonged to Monster Clan and Demon Clan. On their way, the small forces around felt fearful and anxious like mice looking at big cats. They all tried to avoid this group of battleships. Why did the battleships of the Monster Clan and Demon Clan appear in our Shadow Ghostly Prison? These 2 intimidating forces have never been interested in Shadow Ghostly Prison, right? Perhaps it's related to the recent commotion, isn't it? You mean the earth-shaking change of Potion and Tool Pavilion? And how Dark Shadow Clan's cocker died? Well, besides those things, what else do you think it might be because of? The Fighting League, Potion and Tool Pavilion, Ghostmark Clan, and dozens of forces around are working in Shadow Ghostly Prison to search for 3 people. We also received the request to keep an eye out for strangers around here. After all, what happened in Life Star number 9 of Potion and Tool Pavilion? Dunno. Our master doesn't know it, either. We only know that the strongest forces of Shadow Ghostly Prison seem to have cracked it all. From several thousand miles away from the battleships of the Monster Clan and Demon Clan, groups of smaller forces in Shadow Ghostly Prison were discussing the buzzing news. I'm afraid that Shadow Ghostly Prison is about to host the most ruthless war. Yeah, it's true. Cocker's dead. When an incipient God Realm expert dies, no one knows how furious the bloody coming storm will be. We have no tools to predict that. Sigh. Shadow Ghostly Prison is a big mess. It's chaotic enough. I don't know how many people will die this time. On a black ink battleship, Blood Devil was sitting like a rock. He frowned, sending a wisp of thought. Not long after that, Bath and Gute of Monster Clan together with McGee and Guimo and Ghost Hunter were approaching from the battleships of the Monster Clan. Bath and Gute looked impatient. Right when they arrived, they shouted at Blood Devil, asking us to come to Shadow Ghostly Prison. Aren't you taking this too seriously? You think we have plenty of free time? Blood Devil wore a stern face, talking. Did you know about the commotion in Shadow Ghostly Prison? Bath and Gute nodded. Bath said, even if a third sky of incipient God Realm had slaughtered people, what does it matter to our Monster Clan? Why have you asked us to come here? The only remaining member of my tribe was involved. He's missing, snorted Blood Devil. Is that kid worth our 2 tribes traveling thousands of miles to get here? Blood Devil, you're too bored, aren't you? Yeah, that kid has saved my son. But it's not enough to shake all of our Monster Clan, said Bath agitatedly. The last information I received from him says that Life Star number 9 of Potion and Tool Pavilion would have an earth-shaking change. It said he would encounter a danger that threatens his life. As of now, his message has come true. Blood Devil took a deep breath and continued. Besides, he sent me another crucial information. He said that Agate Star area will undergo a tremendous transformation. It relates to all clans here. He asked me to take it seriously. Agate Star area has always had earth-shaking transformations. What else could it become? Gute frowned. No matter how Agate Star area changes, Monster Clan and Demon Clan will always remain as the strongest of the strongest clans. What should we be afraid of then? It's not like that. Blood Devil shook his head. He meant, our Agate Star area will be invaded by a mighty force. Finally, Bath and Gute discolored. Bath contemplated for a while before talking severely. Could that kid make it up because he was afraid that you wouldn't come to rescue him? Blood Devil glared at him, talking in a low tone. I believe him. If he's the only remaining fella of your tribe, shouldn't you be able to locate him using immortal demon blood? Said Gute, frowning. I've tried. I can't locate him at this moment. I'm sure he's still alive. But his condition should be somehow special. I can't contact him. I can only lock his direction. Blood Devil frowned. We are heading towards his general direction. But it's a large scale. I'm afraid it will not be easy to find him. Never mind. We're here anyway. We will go and rock it with you. Bath shrugged. Throwing a glance to McGee standing next to him, he thundered. If you don't owe him a favor, why did your father need to travel thousands of miles without a clue like this? You're my father. You should take responsibility for me, McGee smiled, his smile provoking people to throw him a punch. Standing next to McGee, Ghost Hunter looked like a savage sharp sword. His aura was cold and calm. He hadn't said anything from the beginning. Gute glanced at him, sighing inwardly. He wasn't here because of Blood Devil or Bath. He was here for Ghost Hunter. After he had heard that the only member of Blood Devil's race was in danger, he hesitated. However, right at that moment, Ghost Hunter suddenly talked that if Gute didn't want to join this, he would hand over the Brutal Dragon token and officially leave the Brutal Dragon tribe. Gute didn't know about the real relationship between Ghost Hunter and Shi Yin. However, after this, he understood it. To Ghost Hunter, Shi Yin was much more important than his Brutal Dragon tribe. In a dark area of Shadow Ghostly Prison, dead stars hovered in that area like sand grains. Dead stars were rare. They didn't have earth and heaven energy or any valuable natural resources. They were desolate and belonged to a group of uninterested planets in the Sea of Stars. They could only be a temporary wharf for war chariots or battleships. That area had dozens of dead stars in various sizes. The small ones were just larger than an asteroid. The big ones were as large as a city of Devil Blood Star. Inside a cold, bleak, dead star came the roar of wild beasts. This kind of noise was harsh and brutal, as if someone was under an utterly indescribable pain. Two beautiful shadows stood in a corner of the dead star, sighing worriedly. It has almost been 3 months. He has locked himself inside the dead star and screamed painfully like that. What kind of torture does he have to stand? Fu Wei's eyes were gloomy. She felt bitter inwardly. 3 months ago, Shi Yin built a space passage and brought Xia Xian Yin and Fu Wei by crossing the space nodes. They landed on this group of desolate dead stars. He asked them not to contact the Fighting League and Potion and Tool Pavilion before getting inside the planet. Since then, he had to endure some kind of painful torture. He had stayed inside the planet for 3 whole months. From time to time, he screamed and roared wildly as if he had fallen into bedevilment. The previous battle must generate a powerful backlash against him. He's using his unique method to recover. Xia Xian Yin looked calm. She sighed, but she actually had a deep regret. When they first arrived in the Endless Sea, when she and Shi Yin fought with warriors of Inyang Holy Land, she knew this secret of his. After each battle, he would receive terrible recoil. One time, Shi Yin had asked her to lock herself while he was rolling on the floor to resist some kind of tremendous backlash. It has been more than 100 years and this lousy feature of Shi Yin's power hadn't changed. After he used the power that was much more beyond his real realm, he received such pain. While Fu Wei and Xia Xian Yin were talking in a soft tone, the painful screeching that had been echoed for 3 months eventually calmed down. A brutal, evil energy started to fluctuate inside the dead star. Chapter 1039, Accumulating Energy. Chapter 1039, Accumulating Energy _ Fu Wei and Xia Xian Yin approached the deep hole immediately. They craned their necks to look. After a while, the fluctuating energy from the hole ceased. A figure soared up into the sky. He looked high-spirited as his blood chi was abundant. In his black fighting suit, his lean, muscular body was exposed. His eyes were like diamonds with earth-shaking power. Xia Xian Yin exhaled in relief, parting her lips into a smile. Are you all right? Fu Wei also looked at him. Best condition ever. Shi Yin laughed brightly. The battle on Life Star number 9 had taken all the energy in his body to drive a wisp of soul consciousness coming from a deep place in the mysterious galaxy, which had killed Cocker and the Dark Shadow Warriors and overturned the situation. After that, Shi Yin was hurt while immortal demon blood in his body was used up. However, the essence chi of Cocker after he was killed had filled Shi Yan's acupuncture points, making up for the loss that he had suffered. The energy of an incipient God Realm expert was extreme, indeed. If Shi Yin hadn't been about to reach ethereal God Realm, it wouldn't have been just that simple backlash. Perhaps, his acupuncture points would have exploded, leading to a body eruption. After 3 months of strenuous digestion, he had absorbed all the energy generated from Cocker's death, which had expanded his essence chi ancient tree to the upper limit of first sky of ethereal God Realm and also helped him condense almost 1,000 drops of immortal demon blood. Compared to himself 3 months ago, he didn't lose a bit of energy. Quite the contrary, his energy had rocketed to new heights. Unfortunately, he hadn't deciphered the mysteries of the ethereal extent yet. Otherwise, when his realm was more stable, he could have broken through directly to second sky of ethereal God Realm. Can you tell us about the ancient Demogorgon phantom that had appeared out of nowhere? What happened after all? Fu Wei hesitated for a while before she decided to probe. It has been 3 months and this doubt was still lingering in her mind. She could die to know why. She had made a lot of assumptions, but none of them could approach the truth. Xia Xian Yin understood Shi Yan's situation more than Fu Wei, but still, she didn't know about the phantom of the ancient Demogorgon. She didn't know what kind of god it was. The inheritance I got has been battling with the god clan for tens of thousands of years. The ancient Demogorgon that appeared in Life Star number 9 was controlled by the soul of a precursor of mine. That's how it got such invincible power. Shi Yin pondered for a while, his face stern. Once the Dark Shadow clan knows about my existence, I will become the must-kill target that the God clan won't hesitate to eradicate at any cost. My precursor worried that I would be exposed before I'm strong enough. Thus, he killed Cocker and all of the warriors of the Dark Shadow clan. And he didn't spare your fellows. Xia Xian Yin and Fu Wei exchanged looks, their faces bitter. To prevent Shi Yan's identity from being exposed, that man didn't hesitate to kill almost 10,000 warriors. He didn't spare their subordinates, either. Which level of ruthlessness this expert has. However, they couldn't blame Shi Yin. At the moment Cocker came, he had used his power at incipient God Realm to take the upper hand. Without the help of that precursor, these 2 women could have been killed, too. They were still alive. They had to thank that mysterious expert. But they couldn't be happy. Precursor Feng Yin has been trying to contact me. Jiaduo also sends Fu Wei messages after several days. We cut them off deliberately. But now, what do you want us to tell them? Xia Xian Yin rubbed her porcelain forehead as if she had a headache. The commotion your precursor had caused in Life Star number 9 was too big. Forces around Shadow Ghostly Prison do have concerns. We have to give them an explanation, anyway. Just tell them that it was a third sky of incipient God Realm precursor who has a deep grudge against the Dark Shadow clan. This person suddenly came and massacred people. Shi Yin had a plan, so he told them without any hesitation. Tell them that precursor found out that Dark Shadow clan and God clan have a conspiracy. They will invade Agate Star area. After he killed Dark Shadow clansmen, he captured us and took us away. He told us the evil plan of Dark Shadow clan and God clan. Oh right, don't forget about Great Elders Walu of Potion and Tool Pavilion. Tell them that Precursor wanted us to inform every force in Agate Star area about this. How about the dead warriors of Potion and Tool Pavilion and Windstorm War Department? Sighed Fu Wei. Simple. Cocker of Dark Shadow clan and Du Lin of Ghost Mark clan had killed them all, Shi Yin said deliberately. Yeah, only that way. Xia Xian Yin wore a reluctant complexion. Suddenly, she glared at him angrily. My Windstorm War Department has lost 1/3 of its members. You irritate me. Hearing her mentioning this, Fu Wei felt sorrowful, looking at him with bitterness and regret. Shi Yin felt awkward. He just smiled and said nothing more. Can we contact the others now? Asked Xia Xian Yin irritatedly. Yeah, no problem, no problem. Shi Yin forced a smile. Xia Xian Yin and Fu Wei immediately took out their soundstones. Shi Yin pondered, then furrowed his brows. He also sat down like the 2 women, closing his eyes. A scarlet drop of blood appeared on his fingertip. Dash. Fighting League. Feng Yin was shouting at the warriors of her Windstorm War department with a cold face. She was startled all of a sudden, waving her hand to signal the others to stop talking. She took the sound stone from her sleeve, listening attentively. After a while, Feng Yan's eyes brightened. She hurried to go to the God of War temple to meet Hejim and Feng Han. In Life Star number 9, Bettina and Jaduo were talking to an expert from the Wood Clan. Great Elders Walu had his hysteria, which made Bettina and Jaduo increase their powers. 3 months ago, they contacted the Wood Clan, the force that was close to them, and asked them to send over experts. At this moment, Life Star number 9 wasn't weak anymore as it had more experts. Jaduo was shaken as he said, "We got the news." In the dark galaxy, by a group of dead stars of Shadow Ghostly Prison, battleships of Demon Clan and Monster Clan were scattering, searching through the dead stars. Atop a battleship sat Blood Devil. His mind flickered when his eyes radiated strange light. He smiled, yelling, "Found him." Battleships of Monster Clan and Demon Clan gathered quickly, heading in a fixed generation. On a meteorite by Shadow Ghostly Prison, Phelan, Leona, Katua, Benny, Zwasher, and Shin Ming were sitting cross-legged, their eyes gloomy. It has been 3 months since the earth-shaking commotion in Life Star number 9 had happened. Even the wandering visitors like them got the news. They were so worried about Shi Yin. They didn't know whether Shi Yin had survived or not. Katua suddenly got up, looking here and there. He screamed happily, "Senior calls for us." 7 days later. The Dead Star where Shi Yin, Xia Xian Yin, and Fu Wei were staying welcomed the first wave of guests, which was a fleet of almost 1,000 battleships of Monster Clan and Demon Clan. Chuckling, Shi Yin relaxed his tense mind. Looking at the battleships approaching, he suddenly said, "Precursors, thanks for your trouble." The Monster Clan and Demon Clan gathering made Shi Yin feel warm. When he was in danger previously, he had trusted Blood Devil enough to send him a rescue request. He wasn't even sure if Blood Devil could receive his message or not. Shi Yin thought that even if Blood Devil had received his message, he wouldn't have mobilized a lot of people. At most, he would send some demon experts to check his situation. When he could confirm Shi Yin's situation, he would send his big army. However, it was beyond his imagination. Not only Blood Devil coming personally, but he also brought Bath and Gute of the Monster Clan. He had brought the strongest forces of Monster Clan and Demon Clan, combining them into one. It was because Blood Devil trusted him, or he did care about Shi Yin's death or life much. Shi Yin could see the biggest favor was that lonely member of the immortal Demon Clan had for him. Looking at the coming battleships and Blood Devil storming and landing, Shi Yin was touched as he said, "I couldn't believe you came here yourself. And you, bring your experts together with the Monster Clan." Blood Devil laughed heroically. "Bath and Gute were quite discontented with me on our way here. Boy, help me explain to them. Or else, they would think I'm just acting unreasonably." In the loud laughter, Bath and Gute appeared. Following them were Magi, Guimo, and Ghost Hunter. Their energy rolled powerfully, showing off the Monster Clan's might. What happened after all that? Bath frowned. He was wearing a complexion that wasn't so friendly. "Kid, you sent a message and Blood Devil wanted a war. He had almost disordered the Monster Clan and Demon Clan. He forced us to send out our troops. We came to Shadow Ghostly Prison from our place. This route isn't short. Did you tell the truth about the danger coming to Agate Star area? Do you know about the God Clan?" Shi Yan's face was stern, hissing. Blood Devil, Bath, and Gute exchanged looks. They nodded with a heavy visage. Recently, the number of members of the other clans who have come to Agate Star area have reached the figure of several hundred. It was no exception that those people have come to Agate Star area because their homelands have been invaded. Gute nodded and continued, "From what they told us, the God Clan is an extremely intimidating force in this universe. Their fighting competence is said to be the strongest in this vast space. They are too invasive. They have always been working on expanding their territory. This clan has invaded many galaxies." Shi Yin took a deep breath and said simply, "They've laid their eyes on Agate Star area." Everybody was shocked. "The God Clan is about to invade us?" Bath changed his visage, his voice low and harsh. Almost, Shi Yin nodded, explaining seriously. The Shadow Ghostly Prison here will be the entrance. Dark Shadow Clan is the watchdog of the God Clan. It's in charge of pioneering and cleaning the space barrier that stands between the two star areas. I'm sure that Great Elder of Potion and Tool Pavilion, Zwalu, has sealed a treaty with God Clan. He will use the internal competition of Potion and Tool Pavilion to put Agate's star area into chaos, which will be the pavement for God Clan to come here later. After he finished, the experts of the Monster Clan and Demon Clan couldn't stay calm anymore. They all knew about the power of the God Clan through the refugees from different galaxies who came to find shelter in Agate's star area. At the same time, Potion and Tool Pavilion was a super powerful force in Agate's star area. Great Elders Walu controlled 1/3 of the power of Potion and Tool Pavilion. Being an ally with God Clan and Dark Shadow Clan would bring Agate star area a destructive transformation. God Clan is much stronger than what you think, Shi Yin sighed. They have more than 100 incipient God Realm experts. Each of the 12 great families of the God Clan is able to rule an entire star area. In this vast sea of stars, God Clan has claimed almost half of the stars. If they lay their eyes on Agate's star area, they would stir up this sea of stars severely. Great but deadly commotion would happen. Listening to his description of the God Clan's might, people took in a cold breath, their eyes frightened. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.